I don't think love works anymore. Not the way it used to. Not the way we were told it would. Because everything about it feels fragile now. Disposable. Temporary. I used to believe love was something you built and protected. Something you chose every day. Something that got stronger the more you worked through it. Now it feels like something people try on. Like an outfit. Like a phase. Like something that lasts until it becomes inconvenient. And maybe that's just my experience talking. Maybe I'm jaded, maybe I'm tired. But it's hard not to feel this way when you've watched effort get ignored, loyalty get tested, and consistency get replaced with excitement. It feels like the people who care the most lose the fastest. The ones who communicate openly get labeled too much. The ones who stay calm get called boring. The ones who try to build something stable get overlooked for something unpredictable. And I don't understand when stability became unattractive. When did peace start feeling dull? When did consistency start feeling optional? When did love turn into a competition of who cares less? Because that's what it feels like now. Who replies slower? Who shows less emotion? Who keeps more options open? Who can detach quicker? It feels like the winner in modern love is the one who invests the least, and that doesn't make sense to me, because love was never supposed to be strategic, it was supposed to be mutual, it was supposed to feel safe, it was supposed to feel intentional, but now it feels like leverage, it feels like power dynamics, it feels like emotional poker, and I'm tired of pretending that doesn't affect me. I don't want to play games. I don't want to pretend I don't care just to protect myself. I don't want to withhold affection just to maintain mystery. But every time I show up genuinely, it feels like I lose. And after enough losses, you start questioning the system, not yourself, the system. Because if doing things the right way keeps ending the wrong way, you start wondering if the rules changed, and maybe they did. Social media makes everyone feel replaceable. Dating apps make options endless. Attention is constant. Validation is everywhere, so commitment feels outdated. Why work through something uncomfortable when you can scroll into something new? Why communicate through confusion when you can ghost and reset? Why fix when you can replace? And I hate that mindset, but I see it everywhere. And after a while, it makes you wonder if love is even designed to last in this environment. If loyalty is rare, if depth is rare, if patience is rare. And when something is rare, it's harder to find. And when it's harder to find, you start feeling like maybe it doesn't work anymore. Not because love isn't real, but because people aren't built to sustain it. And that's the scariest thought, because I don't want to become cold. I don't want to stop believing, but I'm tired of investing in something that feels unstable. I'm tired of building just to watch it collapse. I'm tired of thinking something is solid just to realize it was temporary. And maybe love still works. Maybe it's just harder to find. Maybe it requires more maturity than most people are willing to bring. But right now, it feels broken. Not love itself, but the way we handle it. And I don't know if that's pessimism talking or experience. I think what makes me say, I don't think love works anymore isn't bitterness, it's exhaustion. Because every time I try to approach it the right way, intentional, honest, consistent, it feels like I'm bringing depth into a space that rewards detachment. And after a while, you start feeling like you're built wrong for this era. Like maybe you care too much. Like maybe you expect too much. Like maybe you still believe in something that everyone else quietly downgraded. It feels like effort used to mean something. Now effort feels risky. Because the more you give, the more exposed you are. And exposure in modern dating feels dangerous. The one who opens up first is vulnerable. The one who commits first is replaceable. The one who expresses feelings first is too invested. So people hold back. They ration affection. They ration honesty. They ration effort. And when both people are rationing, nothing fully forms. It becomes this half-built connection where nobody is fully in, just partially attached and partially guarded. And that's where love starts to feel like it doesn't work, because love requires surrender, not recklessness. Not obsession, but surrender. You have to be willing to be seen, willing to risk loss, willing to invest without guaranteed return. And nobody wants to do that anymore. Everyone wants certainty before commitment, proof before vulnerability, security before effort. But that's not how love works. Love is built in uncertainty, it's built in risk, it's built in choosing someone without knowing the full outcome. And we live in a time where uncertainty feels intolerable. We want options, we want backups, we want insurance. So instead of building depth with one person, we keep one foot out the door just in case. And you can't build something real with one foot already outside. That's why it feels broken. Not because love itself stopped working, but because we approach it defensively now. And I get it. People have been hurt, people have been betrayed, people have been replaced, so they protect themselves. But protection can slowly turn into detachment, and detachment kills depth. You can't love deeply if you're constantly calculating exits. You can't bond securely if you're scanning for upgrades. You can't build trust if you're always half preparing for collapse. And I'm tired of feeling like I have to adapt to that. I don't want to love strategically. I don't want to care less just to stay safe. I don't want to pretend I don't feel strongly just to avoid looking invested. But when you keep getting hurt for showing up fully, you start wondering if maybe the world rewards the opposite. And that's where the doubt creeps in. Maybe love doesn't work anymore because too many people are operating from fear instead of intention. Too many people want the feeling of love without the responsibility of it. They want butterflies but not boundaries, excitement but not effort, chemistry but not consistency, and chemistry fades without consistency. Excitement fades without stability. Butterflies disappear when there's no structure holding them, so relationships collapse, and instead of reflecting, people reset, and the cycle continues. And when you've seen that cycle enough times, it's hard not to feel like something fundamental shifted. Like the culture around love changed. Like commitment feels heavier now. Like loyalty feels optional. Like patience feels outdated. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are still people who believe in depth. Maybe there are still people who value stability. Maybe there are still people who don't treat connection like it's disposable. But when your personal experiences keep showing the opposite, it's hard to stay optimistic. It's hard to believe love worked when everything around it feels temporary. And I don't want to lose faith, but I also don't want to keep pretending it's easy, because it's not anymore, and maybe love still works, but maybe it only works when two people are equally ready to stop playing defense, and that combination feels rare, not impossible, just rare. And rare takes patience, and patience feels hard when you've already invested so much of it before. So yeah, right now it feels broken. But maybe what's broken isn't love. Maybe it's how we've learned to approach it, and that might be fixable, but only if both people are willing to actually build instead of constantly preparing to leave. Maybe the real reason I don't think love works anymore is because it feels like timing is always off. You meet someone who seems aligned, you connect, you talk for hours, you feel understood, and then something small shifts. Not dramatic, not explosive, just subtle. They pull back slightly, energy changes, consistency drops, and instead of addressing it directly, things fade. That's what modern love feels like. Not endings, fading, no real closure, no real confrontation, just gradual detachment, and it leaves you questioning everything. Did I imagine the connection? Did I misread the depth? Did they ever feel it the way I did? Because when something ends without clarity, your mind fills in the blanks, and most of the time the blanks aren't kind. You start blaming yourself. Maybe I was too much, maybe I wasn't enough, maybe I moved too fast, maybe I didn't move fast enough, and that mental spiral gets exhausting. Love starts feeling like a puzzle with missing pieces. Like no matter how carefully you approach it, something unpredictable shifts. And maybe that unpredictability is what makes it feel broken, because love requires stability to grow. You can't build something meaningful on inconsistent ground. You can't plant something deep in unstable soil, and right now everything feels unstable. People are distracted, attention spans are shorter, validation is constant. It's hard to compete with instant dopamine because love isn't instant dopamine. It's slow burn, it's repetition, it's routine. It's choosing someone again and again, even when the excitement settles. And we live in a culture that constantly chases the next high. So once comfort replaces adrenaline, people confuse it with boredom. Once peace replaces intensity, people think something's missing. But peace isn't missing something. Peace is the goal. And maybe that's why love feels like it doesn't work anymore. Because people are chasing sparks instead of substance. They want fireworks every day, but fireworks aren't sustainable. They're loud, they're bright, they're temporary. Real love isn't fireworks, it's foundation, and foundations aren't flashy. They're steady, and steady doesn't trend well. Steady doesn't go viral, steady doesn't give you constant emotional spikes, but steady is what lasts. And maybe we forgot that. Maybe we've confused intensity with compatibility. Maybe we've confused excitement with alignment. Maybe we've confused attention with affection. And when those illusions fade, people assume love failed, but maybe love didn't fail, maybe expectations did. Still, it's hard not to feel tired. Because every time you start believing in something new, you're also bracing for impact. You don't enter connections open anymore. You enter them cautiously, guarded, prepared, and that guarded energy changes everything. Because love thrives in openness, and guarded hearts can't fully attach. So it becomes this cycle. People get hurt, they protect themselves, they enter something new with walls up. The connection never fully forms, it collapses. They say, see, love doesn't work. But maybe the walls are the problem. Maybe we're all trying to avoid pain so aggressively that we're also avoiding depth. And I don't know how to fix that, because I understand why people guard themselves. I do it too. After enough disappointment, you start building armor. But armor blocks connection just as much as it blocks harm. And that's the dilemma. How do you stay open in a world that keeps showing you how easy it is to be replaced? How do you trust when you've seen how quickly people move on? How do you believe in permanence when everything feels temporary? Those questions don't have easy answers. And that's why sometimes it feels easier to just say, love doesn't work anymore. Because admitting it feels broken, feels safer than admitting you're still hoping it does. And maybe that's the truth. Maybe I don't actually think love is broken. Maybe I'm just scared that I won't find someone who approaches it the way I do. Someone who values depth over dopamine, stability over sparks, consistency over chaos. Because if that kind of person still exists, then maybe love still works. It's just rare. And rare feels invisible when you've only experienced the opposite. So maybe love isn't broken. Maybe the way we approach it is. And maybe the real challenge isn't finding love. It's finding someone who isn't playing defense the whole time, because love can't work if both people are preparing for it to fail. It only works when both decide to build, not brace, and that's what I'm still trying to believe. I think what really makes me say love doesn't work anymore is how disposable everything feels. Nothing feels permanent. Not feelings, not promises, not even history. You can spend months building something with someone. Routines, memories, habits, inside jokes, and then one day it's like it never happened. They move on, they reset, they rebrand their life without you in it, and you're left sitting there wondering how something that felt so real could be treated so lightly. It makes you question whether permanence even exists anymore. Because love used to mean endurance. It used to mean working through discomfort. It used to mean fighting for connection when things got complicated. Now it feels like the moment things feel heavy, people exit. The moment conflict shows up, people reconsider. The moment effort is required consistently, people get tired, and I'm not saying everyone is like that. But it's common enough that it starts to feel normal, and when something unhealthy becomes normalized, you start adjusting your expectations, you start lowering standards without even realizing it. You start telling yourself, maybe this is just how it is now, maybe I'm expecting too much, Maybe stability is unrealistic, and that's the dangerous part, because once you start believing depth is unrealistic, you start accepting less than you deserve. You start settling for half effort, half commitment, half presence, and half love never feels secure. It feels temporary. It feels like you're constantly on probation. Like you have to maintain value instead of simply being valued, and that's exhausting. Love shouldn't feel like an audition. It shouldn't feel like you're being evaluated weekly. It shouldn't feel like you're one mistake away from being replaced, but that's what modern dating culture does. It keeps everyone slightly disposable because there's always another option, and options change the psychology of commitment. Now, when people feel like there's endless supply, they don't invest deeply. They sample, they test, they compare, they upgrade, and depth requires focus. You can't build something meaningful if you're constantly scanning the horizon. And I'm tired of feeling like depth is rare, like loyalty is rare, like emotional maturity is rare. Because if those things are rare, then sustainable love becomes rare too. And when something becomes rare, it starts feeling mythical, like a concept instead of a reality. And I don't want love to feel mythical. I want it to feel grounded, attainable, real. But it's hard to believe in that when everything around you looks temporary. It's hard to stay optimistic when you've watched people replace long-term connections in weeks, when you've seen loyalty get overlooked for excitement, when you've seen communication get labeled as too intense. It makes you question if the qualities you value are even appreciated anymore. And I refuse to become colder just to survive in this environment, but sometimes I understand why people do. Because caring fully feels risky, showing up fully feels vulnerable, and vulnerability feels unsafe when you've seen how quickly people pivot. So instead of opening fully, people guard. Instead of committing deeply, people hesitate. Instead of building, people browse. And browsing never creates attachment, it creates distraction. So maybe love doesn't feel like it works anymore, because too many people are browsing instead of building. Too many people are entertaining instead of committing. Too many people are protecting themselves instead of participating fully. And when both people are slightly guarded, slightly detached, slightly prepared to leave, the connection never roots deeply, it stays surface level. And surface level love doesn't survive pressure. It collapses the moment something real tests it, and that collapse reinforces the belief. See, love doesn't work, but maybe love isn't failing, maybe it's just not being handled properly, maybe it requires two people who are equally tired of games, equally tired of ego, equally ready to stop scanning and start building, and that combination is rare, not impossible, just rare. And when something is rare, it takes time to find. But when you've already waited, already invested, already tried, it's hard not to feel discouraged. It's hard not to say, maybe this just doesn't work anymore. Because hope feels heavy when you've carried it through disappointment repeatedly. Still, there's a small part of me that refuses to fully give up, not because I haven't been hurt, but because I know what depth feels like, and I know I'm capable of giving it. So maybe love doesn't feel broken, maybe it just feels misaligned. Maybe I haven't met someone operating at the same level yet, and maybe love only doesn't work when one person is building and the other is browsing. And next time I won't settle for someone who's just browsing, because I'm done treating love like something experimental. I want something intentional, and if that's rare, then I'll wait, but I won't pretend that what's common right now feels functional, because it doesn't, and that's why sometimes it feels broken. Another reason I feel like love doesn't work anymore is because nobody seems patient enough for it. Real love is repetitive. It's waking up and choosing the same person on regular days, not just exciting ones. It's having conversations that aren't aesthetic. It's working through misunderstandings. It's sitting in awkward silence sometimes. It's resolving conflict instead of avoiding it. and patience feels rare now. The moment something feels complicated, people start questioning compatibility instead of questioning their communication. The moment effort feels required, people start asking if there's someone easier. The moment discomfort shows up, people confuse it with wrong person. But discomfort isn't always misalignment. Sometimes it's growth, sometimes it's two different perspectives trying to learn each other. And learning takes time, but time feels expensive in a world where attention is cheap. It's easier to restart with someone new than it is to repair with someone familiar. It's easier to chase a fresh high than maintain steady connection. It's easier to scroll than sit, and when everything around you reinforces immediacy, patience feels outdated. But love has never been immediate. It starts fast sometimes, and sure, but it sustains slowly, and sustainability isn't exciting. It's disciplined, it's structured, it's built. And I think a lot of people want the feeling of falling in love, but not the responsibility of staying in love. Falling is automatic, staying is intentional, falling feels magical, staying feels deliberate, and deliberate takes effort, and effort feels optional now. That's what makes it feel broken. Because if two people aren't equally patient, equally committed to working through friction, the relationship never stabilizes. It stays fragile, and fragile things shatter easily. Then everyone says, see, it didn't work, but maybe it didn't work because it was never given time to become strong. You can't plant something and expect it to grow overnight, but people expect emotional security immediately. They expect certainty quickly. They expect perfection early. And when reality shows flaws, they exit instead of adjusting. And after experiencing that enough times, you start questioning whether anyone actually stays long enough to build something durable. It's exhausting to be the only one willing to sit in discomfort and talk it through. It's exhausting to be the only one committed to fixing instead of fleeing. It's exhausting to feel like you're building while the other person is evaluating, and evaluation kills intimacy. Because if someone is constantly assessing whether you're worth it, they're never fully in. They're half invested, half prepared to leave. And love doesn't grow in half investment, it grows in commitment. So maybe love doesn't feel broken, maybe commitment does, maybe patience does, maybe resilience does. Because real love requires all three, and without them it collapses under the weight of normal human imperfection. And humans are imperfect, always, which means love will always require forgiveness, always require communication, always require choosing someone even when it's not convenient. And if people aren't willing to do that consistently, then yeah, it starts to feel like love doesn't work anymore, because nobody is sustaining it long enough to see it mature. And maturity is where love actually becomes powerful, not in the butterflies, not in the early intensity, but in the stability that comes after. And maybe we're just living in a time that glorifies the beginning but undervalues the maintenance, and maintenance isn't sexy, but it's essential. And I'm not ready to say love is dead, but I am ready to admit that patience feels endangered, and without patience, nothing lasting survives. Maybe love doesn't feel like it works anymore because nobody trusts it. Not fully, not without hesitation. Everyone says they want something real, but when something real starts forming, fear shows up faster than commitment. Fear of being replaced, fear of being cheated on, fear of being the one who cares more, fear of looking stupid. So instead of leaning in, people brace. They stay slightly detached. They keep backup options emotionally. They don't say everything they feel. They don't invest fully. And when two people are both protecting themselves at the same time, nothing deep ever roots. It becomes this cautious connection where both are waiting for the other to prove something first. Show me you won't leave. Show me you're serious. Show me I'm safe. But safety doesn't come from interrogation. It comes from participation. And participation requires risk. That's the part that feels lost now. Nobody wants to risk looking foolish for love, but love has always required that. You have to be willing to look foolish, to say I care first, to show up consistently even when you don't know the outcome, to invest without a guarantee, and guarantees don't exist. So instead of risking vulnerability, people risk nothing. They test, they observe, they calculate, they delay emotional investment until it feels secure. But emotional security doesn't grow from calculation. It grows from consistency, and consistency requires trust, and trust requires vulnerability. It's a cycle, and when one part is missing, the whole structure collapses. So maybe love feels broken because too many people are trying to feel safe before they've actually built anything safe. They want certainty before commitment, but certainty is something you earn together, not something you demand up front. And I get it. Nobody wants to be hurt again. Nobody wants to feel like the fool who cared more. Nobody wants to invest months just to be replaced in weeks. But if both people are guarding themselves at all times, love never gets a chance to breathe. It suffocates under suspicion, it weakens under ego, it dissolves under comparison, and comparison is everywhere now. We compare partners to people online, we compare relationships to curated timelines, we compare our connection to someone else's highlight reel, and comparison erodes gratitude. It makes you focus on what's missing instead of what's present, and when gratitude fades, dissatisfaction grows, and dissatisfaction looks for alternatives, and alternatives are always available now, so commitment feels heavier than ever, because staying means choosing one thing in a world full of options, and that feels scary to people who haven't learned how to be content. And that's another part of why it feels like love doesn't work, because contentment is rare, and without contentment, nothing feels enough. Not the effort, not the loyalty, not the stability. There's always a what if, and what if is poison to commitment. What if there's someone better? What if I'm settling? What if this isn't the highest version of love? But love isn't about maximizing, it's about choosing. And choice requires focus, and focus requires discipline. And discipline isn't romanticized anymore. Excitement is, intensity is, instant chemistry is. But chemistry alone can't sustain anything. It ignites, it doesn't stabilize, and maybe that's why love feels like it fails. Because people confuse ignition with foundation. They fall fast, they burn bright, they collapse quickly. And then they say, see? Love doesn't work. But maybe what didn't work was patience. Maybe what didn't work was emotional maturity. Maybe what didn't work was two people being equally willing to commit without constantly scanning for something better. I don't think love stopped working. I think standards changed. I think attention got divided. I think ego got louder. And I think fear got stronger. And fear makes people protect themselves in ways that sabotage the very thing they want. So when I say I don't think love works anymore, maybe what I really mean is I don't see enough people willing to handle it properly. Because love is simple. People complicate it. Love is consistent. People are inconsistent. Love is intentional. People are distracted. And until two people show up ready to be disciplined about connection, not just excited about it, it's going to keep feeling unstable. And that's exhausting, because I don't want to approach love like a risk assessment. I want to approach it like a build. But building requires two architects, not one builder and one evaluator. And maybe that's the real challenge, not finding love, but finding someone who isn't quietly preparing for it to fail. Because love only doesn't work when someone stops working at it. And too many people stop the moment it requires effort instead of adrenaline. And I'm tired of adrenaline. I want foundation. And until I find someone who wants foundation too, it's gonna feel broken. Another reason it feels like love doesn't work anymore is because people are addicted to potential more than presence. They fall in love with what something could be instead of what it actually is. They fall for the idea, the fantasy, the imagined future. But when reality sets in, flaws, habits, differences, instead of adjusting expectations, they downgrade the connection. It's like people want perfection in a human body, and humans aren't perfect. So the moment imperfection shows up, doubt follows. She could be better, he could be more. This might not be the best I can get. And that mindset destroys contentment. Because if you're always wondering if something better exists, you'll never water what's in front of you. You'll keep browsing instead of building. And browsing doesn't create depth, it creates comparison. And comparison slowly poisons appreciation. You stop seeing what someone does for you. You focus on what they don't. You stop valuing consistency. You crave excitement. And excitement is unstable. Love isn't built on constant excitement. It's built on reliability, and reliability feels boring if you're addicted to adrenaline. That's the uncomfortable truth. Some people don't want peace, they want chaos that feels passionate. They want intensity that feels cinematic. They want love to look like a movie, dramatic, emotional, unpredictable, but real love is structured, it's routine, it's sometimes quiet, and quiet doesn't trend, quiet doesn't feel thrilling, but quiet is secure. And security is rare in a world that rewards unpredictability. So when someone gives you stability, it feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels uncomfortable, and uncomfortable gets labeled as not right, so they leave, and then they chase something that feels intense again, and that cycle repeats, and every time it collapses, they say, love just doesn't work for me. But maybe it's not love that's failing, maybe it's expectations, maybe it's the craving for perfection, maybe it's the refusal to accept that long-term connection requires compromise and discipline, because compromise doesn't mean settling, it means adjusting, it means understanding that no person will check every box, it means valuing depth over dopamine. And dopamine fades, depth stays, but depth requires maturity. And maturity isn't loud, it's subtle, it's calm, it's secure enough to not constantly question whether something better exists. And that kind of security feels rare right now. It feels like people want love to feel good every second, but no connection feels good every second. There are misunderstandings, bad days, moments of frustration, and if someone expects constant emotional highs, they'll leave the moment it feels neutral. And neutral isn't bad. Neutral is stable, but stability doesn't give you butterflies, it gives you peace, and peace feels unfamiliar in a culture addicted to stimulation. So yeah, sometimes it feels like love doesn't work anymore because people don't recognize it. When it's calm, they mistake chaos for chemistry. They mistake unpredictability for passion. They mistake anxiety for attraction, and healthy love doesn't feel anxious. It feels steady, but if someone's nervous system is used to chaos, steady feels boring, and boring feels wrong, so they leave something stable for something intense. And intensity fades, and the cycle repeats, and that repetition creates the illusion that love is broken. But maybe what's broken is the way people define it. Maybe love hasn't changed. Maybe we have. Maybe we expect too much fantasy and not enough responsibility. Maybe we want effortless depth, but depth is never effortless. It's built, maintained, protected, and protection requires discipline, and discipline isn't romanticized anymore. But without it, nothing lasts. Well, maybe love still works, but only for people who understand that it's not supposed to feel like fireworks forever. It's supposed to feel like foundation. And foundation doesn't crumble at the first sign of imperfection. It strengthens when both people decide to reinforce it. And that's the part that feels rare. Not love, but two people equally ready to treat it like something sacred instead of something optional. And until that alignment happens, yeah, it's gonna keep feeling broken. And sometimes I wonder if the reason love feels broken is because people are more afraid of vulnerability than they are of loneliness. Loneliness is uncomfortable, but vulnerability feels dangerous. Loneliness just feels empty. Vulnerability feels exposing. And exposing yourself in a world where people can replace you in days feels reckless. So instead of risking being fully seen, People present edited versions of themselves, curated personalities, controlled emotions, measured effort, and when two curated versions try to connect, the connection stays surface level, because depth only forms when masks come off, and masks are safer. Masks protect ego, masks protect pride, masks protect image, but masks also block intimacy, and intimacy is what makes love feel alive. Without intimacy, you're just sharing space, and shared space isn't the same as shared depth. Maybe love feels broken because nobody wants to be the first one to remove the armor. Nobody wants to be the one who says, I care, without knowing if it'll be reciprocated. Nobody wants to look foolish, but love has always required risk, and if risk tolerance is low, depth tolerance is low too, and low depth means fragile connection, and fragile connection collapses under normal human imperfection. Then everyone says, see, it didn't work, but maybe it never had the chance to, because it was protected too heavily. You can't build something strong if both people are guarding themselves more than they're investing. And that guarding energy feels everywhere now. It feels like people are in relationships half committed, half prepared to exit, always scanning, always evaluating, always calculating, and calculation kills spontaneity. It kills surrender. It kills the soft parts of love, because soft parts require trust, and trust requires time, and time requires patience, and patience feels scarce. So people rush into feelings but hesitate into commitment. They want intensity without obligation, connection without responsibility, attention without accountability, and that imbalance makes everything unstable, because love isn't just emotion. It's discipline, it's consistency when things feel normal, it's showing up when excitement fades, and showing up isn't glamorous, but it's powerful, and maybe we forgot that. Maybe we've glamorized beginnings and neglected maintenance, maybe we've romanticized sparks and ignored structure, and when structure isn't present, collapse feels inevitable, so love starts to feel broken, not because it doesn't exist, but because it isn't being handled with care, and care requires emotional maturity, and emotional maturity isn't common, it's developed, and development requires self-awareness, and self-awareness requires reflection. And reflection requires sitting with discomfort, and a lot of people avoid discomfort at all costs. So instead of reflecting, they replace. Instead of adjusting, they exit. Instead of building, they restart. And restarting feels easier than repairing. But restarting resets the lesson too, and the cycle continues. And after watching enough cycles, it's hard not to feel like love is just temporary. Like everything eventually fades, like no one really stays. But maybe the problem isn't love, maybe it's our attention spans, maybe it's our tolerance for imperfection, maybe it's our fear of being fully seen, and maybe love only works when two people are brave enough to risk looking foolish for it, brave enough to commit without constant comparison, brave enough to stay when it's not cinematic, brave enough to build when it's not exciting. And that kind of bravery feels rare, but rare doesn't mean non-existent, it just means selective. And maybe the reason love feels broken to me is because I've seen too much avoidance and not enough bravery. But that doesn't mean bravery doesn't exist, it just means I haven't experienced it consistently yet. And that's frustrating, but frustration doesn't equal impossibility. It just means the standard is high, and high standards take time to align with. So maybe love isn't broken, maybe it's just misused. And until two people approach it with equal discipline and equal depth, it's going to keep feeling unstable. But I still believe, even if it's quiet belief now, that real love requires courage. And courage isn't loud, it's consistent. And when I find someone consistent enough to stay through discomfort instead of running from it, maybe it won't feel broken anymore. Maybe it'll finally feel built. There's another truth I don't always say out loud. Sometimes when I say I don't think love works anymore, what I really mean is I'm scared to believe in it again. Because believing in it requires hope, and hope is heavy when you've watched things fall apart more than once. It's easier to say love is broken than to admit you're afraid of being hurt again. It's easier to act detached than to admit you still want something real. It's easier to lower expectations than to risk disappointment. But the reason it still frustrates me so much is because I do believe in depth, I believe in loyalty, I believe in consistency, I believe in choosing someone and actually staying. So when I look around and see temporary everywhere, it feels like I'm out of place, like I'm built for something that isn't common anymore, and that can make you feel isolated. Because you start wondering if you're unrealistic, if you expect too much, if maybe you're the one who needs to adapt. But adapting to a culture that treats connection lightly feels like losing something essential, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to become someone who loves halfway. I don't want to become someone who keeps emotional backups. I don't want to become someone who leaves at the first sign of discomfort. But when you keep getting hurt for caring deeply, you start questioning if depth is sustainable. You start questioning if maybe emotional availability is a liability. And that's where it starts to feel broken, because when emotional maturity feels like a disadvantage, something is misaligned. If being honest gets you labeled as too intense, if being consistent gets you labeled as too predictable, if being loyal gets you taken for granted, then it feels like the traits that build love aren't valued anymore, and that's exhausting. Because I don't want to play a game where detachment wins. I don't want to pretend I don't care just to maintain power. I don't want to approach relationships strategically. I want to approach them intentionally. And intentional love requires two people who are equally committed to depth, not one person building and one person browsing, not one person healing and one person distracting, not one person fighting and one person evaluating, two people building together. And maybe that's why it feels broken, because alignment like that feels rare, not because it doesn't exist, but because it requires both people to be self-aware enough to recognize what they're building. And self-awareness takes work, and not everyone does the work. But here's something I'm slowly realizing. Just because I haven't experienced that alignment consistently doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means I haven't found someone operating at the same emotional frequency yet. And maybe love doesn't feel like it works because I've been encountering people who are still figuring themselves out, still healing, still exploring, still distracted, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if two people aren't equally ready, love will always feel unstable. So maybe love isn't broken, maybe timing is, maybe readiness is, maybe emotional maturity is, and that's a different problem than love itself. Because love, real love, still requires the same ingredients it always has: trust, patience, consistency, effort, communication, choice. Those haven't changed. What's changed is how many people are willing to commit to them long term. And that's what makes it feel fragile, but fragile doesn't mean impossible. It just means selective. And maybe the reason it feels broken is because I haven't experienced the selectivity paying off yet. So do I really think love doesn't work anymore? Or am I just tired? Tired of building with people who weren't ready? Tired of investing in connections that weren't aligned? Tired of watching things collapse because one person stopped trying? Maybe what feels broken isn't love. Maybe it's my optimism. Maybe it's my patience. Maybe it's my energy. Because loving deeply takes energy. Believing in something lasting takes courage. And after enough disappointment, courage feels heavy. But here's what I know. I don't want temporary. I don't want half effort. I don't want something that collapses the moment it feels normal. I want stability. I want intentionality. I want someone who doesn't get bored when peace replaces intensity. And if that's rare, then I'll accept that it's rare. But I won't accept that it's impossible, because I know I exist. And if I exist, someone who still believes in depth and loyalty and consistency, then that means other people like that exist too. Maybe love doesn't feel like it works because it's not common anymore, but uncommon doesn't mean extinct. It just means it requires discernment. It requires patience. It requires walking away from people who treat connection casually. And maybe that's the real shift. Maybe love doesn't work when we try to force it with the wrong people. Maybe it only works when both people are equally disciplined about it. And discipline isn't flashy, but it's powerful. So maybe love isn't broken. Maybe it's just rare enough that you have to be selective about who you build it with. And until that alignment shows up, it's going to feel unstable. But I refuse to become cold just because it's hard. I refuse to downgrade my depth just because others operate shallow. And one day, when two people who both believe in building, not browsing, meet each other, love won't feel broken. It'll feel intentional. And intentional love, that still works. There's a point where saying love doesn't work anymore becomes less about love and more about self-protection. Because if I convince myself it's broken, then I don't have to risk it again. If I label it dysfunctional, I don't have to open up. If I tell myself everyone leaves, then no one can surprise me when they do. It becomes armor. And armor feels safer than hope. Hope requires vulnerability. Hope requires believing someone will show up differently than the last person did. Hope requires trusting that the next connection won't collapse the same way the others did. And that's hard, because patterns create expectations. If you've seen inconsistency enough times, you start expecting it. If you've been replaced quickly, you start bracing for it. If you've watched effort go unmatched, you start rationing yours. And slowly, without even noticing, you stop loving the way you used to. You become careful, measured, guarded. You don't say everything you feel. You don't invest as quickly. You don't attach as deeply. And then when something ends, it hurts less, but it also meant less. And that's the trade-off nobody talks about. If you protect yourself enough, you reduce pain, but you also reduce depth. And depth is the whole point, so maybe love doesn't feel like it works anymore because I've been loving defensively. Not fully, not recklessly, but cautiously. And cautious love never fully blooms. It survives. It doesn't flourish. And surviving isn't the same as thriving. Maybe I'm not doubting love. Maybe I'm doubting whether I can afford to feel that deeply again. Because feeling deeply means risking loss deeply. And loss has weight. And carrying that weight repeatedly makes you tired. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If I stop believing in love because others mishandled it, then I let their behavior reshape my character. And I don't want that. I don't want to become someone who loves halfway. I don't want to operate from fear. I don't want to treat every new person like they're already guilty of someone else's mistakes. But healing doesn't happen instantly. Trust doesn't reset overnight. And rebuilding optimism takes time, so maybe love isn't broken. Maybe I'm just rebuilding my trust in it. Maybe what feels like cynicism is actually exhaustion. Maybe what feels like disbelief is actually disappointment that hasn't fully healed, because when I'm honest with myself, I still want depth. I still want consistency. I still want something stable and intentional. If I truly believed love didn't work anymore, I wouldn't still crave it. I wouldn't still think about it. I wouldn't still care this much. The fact that I'm frustrated proves I still believe in it. You don't get frustrated over something you've given up on. You get frustrated over something you still want, but haven't found. And maybe that's the shift. Maybe love isn't broken. Maybe my patience is just being tested. Maybe my standards are filtering out what doesn't align. Maybe every failed connection isn't proof that love doesn't work. Maybe it's proof that misalignment doesn't. And misalignment is common. But alignment is rare. And rare things take time to find. So maybe I need to stop saying love is broken. Maybe I need to say love is selective. Maybe I haven't experienced the right version of it yet. Because the version I want, stable, mutual, disciplined, requires two people equally committed to depth. And depth isn't everywhere. But it exists, I exist, which means someone else like me exists too. And maybe love doesn't feel like it works because I've been encountering people at different stages of emotional maturity, different levels of readiness, different levels of self-awareness, and that doesn't mean love is dead. It just means timing matters, and readiness matters, and alignment matters. So yeah, some days it feels broken, some days it feels like effort goes nowhere, some days it feels like loyalty isn't valued, but deep down, I don't think love stopped working. I think I'm just tired of building with people who weren't built to stay. And that's different, because when two people are both ready, not just interested, not just attracted, but ready, love doesn't collapse easily. It stabilizes, it deepens, it roots. So maybe love isn't broken. Maybe it just requires the right two people at the right time. And until that alignment shows up, it's gonna feel unstable. But I'm not done believing in it. I'm just more careful about who I build it with, and that's growth, not defeat. Why does fitting in feel like a full-time job? Like, you gotta work twice as hard just to be seen as average. If you don't have the face card, the perfect body, the clothes everybody else wears, the confidence they were just born with, you don't get treated the same. You get pushed aside, overlooked, judged before you even open your mouth, and the worst part, it makes you start believing something is wrong with you instead of the world around you. Growing up, I always felt like the odd one out. I didn't look like the kids who got attention. I didn't have the money or the style. I didn't have the effortlessly cool aura that everyone else seemed to have. I was just me. And apparently me was never enough for anybody. All I wanted was to fit in. Not to be popular, not to be the center of attention, just to be accepted, just to have a friend group that saw me instead of seeing what I lacked, but instead I got judged for everything. How I looked, how I talked, what I wore, what I didn't have, things I couldn't even control. It's crazy how people will look at you for 2 seconds and decide your whole worth off those 2 seconds. And it hurts, because deep down, all I ever wanted was for someone to see me for who I actually am. Not for the face, not for the body, not for the clothes, but for my heart, my loyalty, my intentions, my personality. I'm tired of feeling like I have to meet some criteria just to be treated like a human. Tired of feeling like I need to change myself just to be allowed in the room. One day I hope the world stops judging people by the outside. One day I hope just being me is finally enough. But until then, I'm learning to stop chasing acceptance from people who never cared to understand me in the first place. Because not fitting into their world doesn't mean I don't belong in my own. Sometimes the question isn't, will I be loved? It's quieter than that. It's, is there something about me that makes love harder? Because when people keep leaving or hesitating or choosing someone else, you start internalizing it. You start wondering if maybe you're too intense, too emotional, too independent, too complicated, or maybe not enough of something, and no one ever says it directly. They just drift, they just lose interest, they just aren't ready, and you're left holding the pattern. So you sit there thinking, if I was easier to love, would they have stayed? Maybe you're not hard to love. Maybe you're just hard to manipulate, hard to breadcrumb, hard to keep around without effort, hard to confuse. And to the wrong people, that feels inconvenient. You ask questions, you want clarity. You don't pretend you're okay with half effort. That doesn't make you difficult, it makes you aware. But when you keep encountering people who aren't ready for depth, your standards start to feel like flaws. You start thinking, maybe if I needed less, maybe if I expected less, maybe if I was more chill, they would have stayed. But staying isn't the goal. Staying right is. And being easy to love often just means being easy to neglect. You're not hard to love, you're just not built for temporary. When rejection repeats itself, you stop seeing it as coincidence. You start seeing it as confirmation. Confirmation that maybe you're too much, too sensitive, too deep, too intense for people to handle long term. So you adjust, you soften your reactions, you downplay your needs, you act less invested than you actually are, because maybe if you seem lighter, less emotional, less attached, they won't leave. But here's what really happens. You slowly disconnect from yourself. You become quieter in relationships, less expressive, less honest about what you want. And when someone still walks away, it hurts even more, because now it feels like even the edited version of you wasn't enough. That's when the question gets louder. If even my smaller version isn't chosen, what does that say about me? But maybe it doesn't say anything about you. Maybe it says something about who you've been choosing. There's a difference between being hard to love and being hard to access. Hard to love sounds like a flaw, like you're difficult, complicated, too much work. Hard to access is different. It means not everyone gets the deepest parts of you. It means you don't open up instantly. It means your vulnerability isn't handed out casually. And that's not a weakness, that's discernment. You don't let just anyone in anymore. You don't overshare with people who haven't earned trust. You don't attach quickly just because there's chemistry. To someone who wants easy, that feels frustrating. To someone who wants depth, that feels rare. You're not hard to love, you're just not available for surface level connection. And the wrong people will always call that too much, but the right person, they'll call it intentional. Maybe the real issue was never that you're hard to love. Maybe you've been loving people who don't know how to love deeply. There's a difference. Some people like the idea of you, your attention, your softness, the way you show up for them. But when it's time to reciprocate, they struggle, not because you're asking for too much, but because they don't have that depth to give. And instead of admitting that, it's easier for them to label you. Too intense, too emotional, too serious. But wanting clarity isn't intense, wanting effort isn't emotional, wanting something real isn't serious, it's healthy. You're not hard to love, you're hard to half love, and that's where the tension comes from. Because people who operate casually feel pressure around someone who operates intentionally, but pressure isn't the same as incompatibility. It's just misalignment. When you're repeatedly misunderstood, you start questioning your depth. You start wondering if you feel too much, if you expect too much, if you interpret things too deeply. Because when people keep saying, it's not that serious, or you're overthinking, you begin to shrink your instincts, you second guess your reactions, you silence your intuition, you tell yourself to calm down, even when something feels off. But here's the truth. Depth feels dramatic to people who live on the surface. Emotional awareness feels intense to people who avoid vulnerability. Your ability to feel deeply is not a flaw, it's a capacity. And just because someone doesn't meet you there doesn't mean you're too much. It just means they don't swim that far. You're not hard to love. You're just not built for shallow connections. And that's not something you should dilute. At some point, the question changes. It stops being, am I hard to love? And starts being, are they capable of loving me properly? That shift is everything, because instead of dissecting yourself, you start observing them. Can they communicate clearly? Can they handle vulnerability? Can they stay consistent when things get real? Or do they pull away the moment depth shows up? You stop assuming you're the problem. You start noticing patterns. Some people love casually, some people love conditionally. Some people love only when it's convenient. And if you love intentionally, those dynamics will always clash. You're not hard to love. You're just not compatible with people who aren't emotionally available. And once you realize that, you stop shrinking, you stop softening your standards, you stop apologizing for wanting clarity. Because love isn't supposed to feel like convincing someone, it's supposed to feel mutual. What if being hard to love actually means you're built for something rare? Rare love isn't rushed, it isn't casual, it isn't convenient, it's intentional. And intentional love requires emotional maturity, self-awareness, consistency. Not everyone has that. So when someone meets you and realizes they can't show up fully, it's easier for them to say you're too much than admit they're not ready. Rare things aren't accessible to everyone. Depth isn't for everyone. Loyalty isn't for everyone. Emotional honesty isn't for everyone. You're not hard to love, you're selective. And selective love filters out people who only wanted access, not responsibility. You don't need someone who loves lightly. You need someone who loves intentionally. And that kind of love is never going to come from everyone anyway. At some point, you stop fearing the label. You stop trying to prove you're easy. You stop trying to shrink your depth. You stop trying to soften your standards. If loving you requires clarity, effort, and consistency, then that's the requirement, not an apology. You don't dilute your emotions anymore. You don't pretend you're fine with surface level. You don't act detached just to seem low maintenance. You embrace it. Yes, you love deeply. Yes, you need communication. Yes, you value stability. That doesn't make you difficult. It makes you intentional. And when you stop treating your depth like a flaw, you stop attracting people who are intimidated by it, because confidence changes your energy. You're not asking, is this too much? Like, you're asking, can they meet me here? And if they can't, you don't internalize it. You understand that not everyone is equipped for the kind of love you offer, and that's okay. So, am I hard to love? No, I'm just not easy to half love. I don't do confusion. I don't thrive on inconsistency. I don't mistake potential for commitment anymore. If loving me requires effort, that's because I give effort. If loving me requires honesty, that's because I offer honesty. If loving me requires depth, that's because I refuse to stay shallow. I used to think I needed to soften, to be less emotional, less aware, less intense, but the right love won't ask me to shrink. It won't call my standards too much. It won't label my needs as dramatic. It won't feel overwhelmed by my depth. It will meet it. So no, I'm not hard to love. I'm just built for someone who loves intentionally, someone who doesn't hesitate, someone who doesn't compare, someone who doesn't need convincing. And until that shows up, I'm not a problem to fix. I'm just not available for less. And that's not being hard to love. That's knowing exactly how I deserve to be loved. This girl thinks I don't care, but the truth is, the mistakes I make replay in my head 24/7, like a loop I can't escape. People think guys just shrug things off, but honestly, we feel everything. We just don't show it the same. Every time I mess up, I don't just feel bad. I tear myself apart, not physically, but mentally. I call myself names, I convince myself I'm a failure, I beat myself down harder than anyone else ever could. I replay the situation over and over, thinking, why did you say that? Why did you act like that? You always ruin everything. And that voice, it's brutal. Like my brain refuses to let me move on. One mistake turns into a whole story about how I'm not good enough, how I'm never going to be enough. She thinks I don't care. She thinks my silence means I'm unbothered, or that I'm ignoring her feelings, or that I don't take the situation seriously. But the truth is, when I'm quiet, is because inside I'm drowning. I'm replaying every second, every look, every word, trying to figure out where I went wrong. Trying to figure out how to fix it. Trying to figure out why I can't just be better. I think a lot of guys go through this. We overthink everything. We analyze every angle, looking for the one thing we could have done differently. We don't move on fast. We just hide it better. And while I'm sitting there in my own head, she thinks I don't care at all. Like I just brushed it off. Like it meant nothing to me. But the truth is, it meant everything. I'm quiet because I care too much, because I'm afraid of making it worse, because I don't know how to explain the war going on in my mind. I know I messed up. I know I did some dumb stuff. I know I acted in ways I shouldn't have. I'm not oblivious. I'm not heartless. I feel every bit of it. But instead of saying what's going on, I sit there beating myself up, telling myself I should have known better, telling myself I shouldn't have made that mistake, telling myself she deserves someone better than me. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You can't punish yourself into becoming better. You can't grow if you're too busy tearing yourself down. And no relationship survives if you only talk to yourself in your head instead of communicating with the person you hurt. Yeah, own your mistakes. Yeah, admit when you were wrong. But don't live in your head forever. Don't let one moment define who you think you are. If you messed up, say it. If you care, show it. If you want to do better, prove it. And if they believe you, great. If they don't, keep showing up. Your actions will speak long before your explanations do. But stop destroying yourself. Stop replaying the same scene like it decides your entire worth. You're allowed to mess up. You're allowed to learn. You're allowed to grow. That's what I'm trying to remind myself now. I'm trying to take the lesson without the self-hate. I'm trying to be a better version of myself. Not a perfect person, just a real one. And that's all any of us can do. I found out what she really thought of me. And I wish I didn't, because in my head, it was different. I thought she respected me. I thought she valued me. I thought the way I showed up actually meant something to her. But the truth, it wasn't what I believed. And it didn't come out in a direct way. Not a conversation. Not something she sat me down and said. It came out indirectly. Through things I wasn't supposed to hear. Through how she spoke when I wasn't around. And that's when it hit me. The version of me in her head wasn't the same as the version of me I thought she saw. At first I didn't want to believe it because it didn't match how she acted around me. with me, she seemed calm, interested, like she actually cared. But what I heard didn't sound like that version of her at all. It sounded detached, like I wasn't that important, like I was just there. And that's what messes with you. When someone treats you one way to your face and thinks something completely different behind it, because now you don't know what was real, the way she talked to you, or the way she talked about you. And once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it. Every memory started changing. Moments that felt genuine started feeling questionable. Things she said started sounding different in my head, because now I was looking at everything through a new lens, a more honest one. And the more I thought about it, the more it started making sense. Why sometimes her energy felt off. Why sometimes I felt like I was trying harder. Why something always felt slightly uneven. I just didn't want to accept it back then. Because when you care about someone, you don't want to believe they see you differently than you see them. You want to believe it's mutual, that the respect is equal, that the value is the same on both sides. But it wasn't. Not really. Because if she truly saw me the way I thought she did, she wouldn't have spoken about me like that. She wouldn't have minimized what I was giving. She wouldn't have treated my presence like something replaceable. And that's the part that hits your ego. Not in a loud way, in a quiet way. Because now you're not just dealing with losing her. You're dealing with realizing how little you meant in her perspective. While you were taking her seriously, she wasn't taking you the same way, and that imbalance, it hurts more than the ending. For a while I started questioning myself, like maybe I misread everything. Maybe I thought it was deeper than it actually was. Maybe I gave too much meaning to something that wasn't built to hold it, because when someone sees you as less than what you believed, it makes you feel like you got it wrong. But here's what I had to understand. Just because she didn't value me properly, doesn't mean I wasn't valuable. The problem wasn't who I was, it was how she saw me. And you can't control that. You can show up right, you can be real, you can be consistent, but if someone already has a limited view of you, they're going to treat you based on that, no matter how you show up. And that's why nothing I did changed it, because the issue wasn't effort, it was perception. Once I understood that, the pain started shifting. Because now it wasn't about trying to prove something to her anymore. It was about realizing I was giving energy to someone who didn't even see it properly. And that's a different kind of clarity, because it makes you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop trying to be understood by someone who already decided how they see you. And honestly, I'm glad I found out, even though it hurt, because I would have kept going, thinking it was deeper than it actually was, thinking she valued me the way I valued her, and that would have kept me stuck. But the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, it frees you. So yeah, then I found out what she really thought of me, and it wasn't what I expected, but now I see it clearly. The right person doesn't make you question your value. They don't talk about you like you're nothing. They don't treat you like you're replaceable. They see you fully, clearly, and they move accordingly. So I'm not mad at what I found out. I'm just glad I didn't stay blind to it, because now I know one thing for sure. I'd rather know the truth than keep believing something that was never real. I'll be gone one day. Not in a dramatic way, not as a threat, not as a goodbye, just as a fact. One day I won't be this accessible. I won't be this available. I won't be this version of me. And sometimes I wonder, will people notice? Will they realize what I carried, what I gave, what I stayed through? Or will it only make sense when I'm not around to do it anymore? It's strange feeling invisible while you're still here. You show up, you check in, you stay consistent, you carry conversations, you give effort, you hold things together quietly, but it feels expected, like your presence is normal, like your loyalty is assumed, like your effort is just background noise. And that's when the thought creeps in. If I stopped doing this, if I pulled back, if I disappeared, would anyone feel the shift? Or do people only realize what you meant after you're no longer there to give it? Being the strong one rarely gets applauded. You're the one people vent to, the one who keeps it together, the one who doesn't break down publicly. So they assume you're fine. They assume you don't need reassurance, don't need checking in, don't need to be chosen loudly, because you've trained everyone to see you as stable, but strength can be lonely, carrying everyone else's emotions while quietly managing your own, smiling through things you never fully process. And sometimes you think, if I ever stopped being the strong one, would anyone know how to hold me? Or would they only realize what I was carrying after I put it down? There's a quiet exhaustion that comes with always being dependable. You don't cancel, you don't disappear, you don't make people question where they stand with you. You're solid. And because of that, people get comfortable. They assume you'll always answer, always show up, always understand. But no one asks how much it costs you. No one sees the days you wanted to shut down, the moments you needed someone else to take the lead. Being reliable is a beautiful trait, but when it's constant, it becomes heavy, and sometimes you think, if I ever stop carrying this role, will they notice the weight I was holding all along? What happens when the dependable one finally pulls back? At first, nothing. People assume you're just busy, just tired, just having an off day. But when the consistency shifts, when the long paragraphs turn short, when the constant availability fades, that's when they feel it. The silence hits different when it's coming from the one who never used to go quiet. And suddenly they notice what you used to do, the way you checked in first, the way you kept things from falling apart, the way you made everything feel steady. And it's not about revenge, it's not about proving a point, it's about capacity, because even the strongest ones get tired of being unheld. And when they finally step back, it's not dramatic, it's quiet, but it changes everything. Being gone doesn't always mean physically leaving. Sometimes it means emotionally detaching. Still replying, but not overextending. Still present, but not pouring the same energy. Still there, but no longer carrying what isn't yours. That shift is subtle. You don't announce it, you don't explain it, you just stop overgiving. And the people who were used to your full capacity start to feel the difference, because now you're protecting your energy instead of offering it endlessly. You're choosing peace over being needed, and sometimes that's the real goodbye, not disappearing, just deciding you deserve to be poured into too. Being gone one day might not mean disappearing. It might mean evolving, becoming a version of yourself that not everyone gets access to anymore. The version that over-explains, that overextends, that tolerates bare minimum, gone. The version that accepts crumbs just to keep the peace, gone. Growth changes your availability. You don't respond the same. You don't tolerate the same. You don't give the same unlimited access. And some people will say you changed. They'll say you're distant, different, harder to reach. But what they really mean is you stopped being endlessly accessible. And sometimes being gone is just becoming too self-aware to stay in spaces that don't value you. The right people won't lose you when you grow. They won't complain that you changed. They'll adjust with you, because real connection isn't built on convenience. It's built on understanding. When you stop overgiving, the right ones won't call you distant. They'll ask if you're okay. When you set boundaries, the right ones won't feel attacked. They'll respect them. When you evolve, the right ones won't feel threatened. They'll evolve too. Growth doesn't push away what's aligned. It only exposes what was comfortable. And if one day you're gone because you chose peace over pressure, the people meant for you won't lose access. They'll meet you at your new level. One day, being gone might just mean I finally chose myself, not selfishly, not dramatically, fully choosing peace over pressure, fully choosing growth over familiarity, fully choosing reciprocity over exhaustion, because for a long time I chose understanding, I chose patience, I chose staying, even when it drained me. But one day I'll choose alignment, and that might look like distance to people who benefited from my overgiving. It might look like silence to people who only checked in when I carried things. But to me, it'll feel like relief, because being gone isn't always about leaving others. Sometimes it's about finally not leaving yourself. I'll be gone one day, but not in a tragic way, in a transformative way. I'll be gone from the spaces that drained me, gone from the roles that confined me, gone from the version of me that overgave just to be appreciated. And the people who only valued what I provided, they'll call it distance. The people who only noticed when I carried things, they'll call it change. But the ones who truly saw me, they'll understand. Because being gone isn't disappearing, it's evolution. It's choosing peace over performance, reciprocity over exhaustion, alignment over attachment. One day I'll be gone, and it won't be because I faded. It'll be because I finally grew into a version of myself that refuses to stay where I'm not valued. And that's not a loss. That's a rebirth. I don't think I've ever been someone's first choice. Not immediately. Not without hesitation. I've been liked, wanted, texted every day. But when it came down to it, there was always a pause. Let me think. I'm not sure what I want. The timing isn't right. And you start noticing a pattern. You're good enough to keep around. Good enough to talk to. Good enough to feel close to. But not good enough to be picked without doubt. And that does something to you. Because you don't want to compete. You don't want to prove yourself. You don't want to convince someone to see what's already there. You just want one person who doesn't hesitate, one person who doesn't compare you, doesn't explore other options, doesn't need to figure it out, just chooses you. And when that hasn't happened yet, the question creeps in quietly. Is there something about me that makes people unsure? When you're never the first choice, you start overperforming. You become extra understanding, extra patient, extra available. You respond faster. You give more reassurance. You try to be easier to love. Because maybe if you're perfect enough, they won't hesitate. Maybe if you don't complain, don't ask for too much, don't pressure them, they'll finally pick you confidently. So you adjust, you downplay your needs, you accept the bare minimum, you tell yourself you're just being mature. But really, you're trying to secure a spot. You're trying to prove that you're worth choosing. And the painful part is this: even when you give your best, even when you're thoughtful, loyal, consistent, they still hesitate. And that's when it hits. It was never about you not doing enough. It was about them not being sure. And no amount of overperforming can fix someone else's uncertainty. After a while, it stops feeling like coincidence. It starts feeling like proof. Proof that maybe you're missing something, that maybe there's a quality you don't have, that maybe you're just almost exciting enough, almost attractive enough, almost unforgettable. And when you sit with that long enough, it begins to chip at your confidence. You start comparing yourself to the people they did choose. What do they have that I don't? What do they do differently? Why was it easier to commit to them? And the dangerous part? You begin to rewrite yourself in your head. Maybe I'm too available, too soft, too deep, or maybe not enough of something else. So you question your personality, your timing, your worth. But here's the truth that hurts before it heals. Someone else's preference is not a measurement of your value. You can be incredible and still not be someone's first choice. Not because you're lacking, but because alignment isn't forced. And just because someone didn't see you clearly doesn't mean you weren't clear. It just means they weren't your person. At some point you get tired, not bitter, not angry, just tired. Tired of feeling like you're competing without signing up for a competition. Tired of being compared to other options. Tired of waiting for someone to decide. Tired of proving you're worth choosing. And something shifts. You stop trying to outshine anyone. You stop adjusting yourself to win. You stop playing it cool just to stay in the running. Because love isn't supposed to feel like auditions. You shouldn't have to outperform someone to be valued. You shouldn't have to worry about whether you're the best option available. You either align or you don't. And once you realize that, you stop competing. You don't fight for a spot. You don't beg to be prioritized. You don't argue your value. You just observe. If someone's unsure, that's your answer. Not because you're not enough, but because you refuse to be an option. And the moment you stop competing, you stop feeling small, because you remember something important. You're not here to be the best choice in a lineup. You're here to be the only choice for the right person. The moment you refuse to compete, your standards rise automatically. You stop accepting, let's see where this goes. You stop entertaining mixed signals. You stop tolerating being someone's backup plan, because if someone has to compare you, they're not aligned with you. It's that simple. You don't need to be better than anyone else. You don't need to win. You don't need to outperform. You just need someone who sees you and doesn't hesitate. And once you decide you're no longer an option, you start moving differently. You don't over-explain. You don't over-give. You don't overstay. If someone's energy feels unsure, you don't chase clarity. You step back, not to play games, not to test them, but because you value yourself enough to not beg for certainty. And here's the truth. The right person won't need alternatives. They won't weigh you against other options. They won't keep you around while exploring. They'll know. And when you finally believe you deserve that kind of clarity, you stop asking, why am I never the first choice? Because you realize you were just giving your energy to people who weren't capable of choosing fully. Being someone's second option was never your identity. It was a season, a pattern you tolerated, a dynamic you accepted, a lesson you hadn't learned yet, but it was never who you are. You weren't born to compete for attention. You weren't designed to be compared. You weren't meant to sit around waiting for someone to decide if you're enough. That was just a chapter, and chapters end. What you thought was rejection was actually redirection. Because imagine being fully chosen by someone who had to debate it. Imagine building something with someone who once hesitated. That foundation would always feel shaky. So maybe not being first protected you from being second in someone's heart. Maybe every time someone paused, it was life removing you from something that wasn't certain. You weren't overlooked, you were misaligned. And misalignment isn't failure, it's filtering. You're not destined to be the second option. You were just learning what it feels like, so you'd never accept it again. Everything changes when you stop identifying as the almost. You stop saying, this always happens to me. You stop expecting to be overlooked. Stop bracing for hesitation. Stop assuming you'll be compared. Because when you carry the identity of being second, you unconsciously accept second place behavior. You tolerate inconsistency. You excuse uncertainty. You stay longer than you should. But the moment you decide that's not who you are, your tolerance drops. You don't romanticize mixed signals. You don't wait around for someone to decide. You don't attach yourself to potential. You start moving like someone who expects clarity, and that energy is different. You ask direct questions. You communicate directly. You walk away directly, not because you're cold, because you're done being confused. You're not almost. You're not maybe. You're not will see. You're either fully chosen or you're unavailable. And once you internalize that, the pattern breaks because you no longer accept roles that don't fit you. Being someone's first choice starts with being confident enough to walk away. Because if you're afraid to lose them, you'll accept almost. You'll accept, I'm not ready. You'll accept, I need time. You'll accept being kept around while they figure it out. Not because you're weak, but because you don't want to lose the connection. But here's the shift. The moment you realize you're okay walking away, you stop settling for hesitation. You stop clinging to potential. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop staying where you feel unsure. And that energy changes everything. You don't threaten to leave. You don't play games. You just won't stay where you're not certain. And when someone feels that, they either step up or they step out. Both are clarity, because being someone's first choice isn't about demanding it. It's about being willing to lose anything that doesn't offer it. And once you're strong enough to walk away from confusion, you stop ending up in it. The right person won't make you question your position. You won't have to decode their text. You won't have to wonder where you stand. You won't have to compete with silence. When someone is sure about you, it shows in consistency, in effort, in how they talk about you, in how they prioritize you. There's no gray area, and that's what you've been missing. Not love, not attraction, not chemistry, clarity. Because every time you felt like you weren't the first choice, it wasn't because you lacked something, it was because the situation lacked certainty. The right connection won't feel like a tryout. It won't feel like you're waiting for results. It won't feel like you're one option among many. It will feel stable, secure, intentional. And when you experience that, you'll realize something important. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong people. So why was I never the first choice? The truth, because I was entertaining people who weren't capable of choosing fully. It was never about my worth, never about me lacking something, never about me being second best. It was about alignment. I was trying to be first in rooms where I was only an option. And once I stopped accepting that role, everything changed. I don't compete anymore. I don't overperform. I don't wait to be picked. If someone hesitates, I step back. If someone compares, I remove myself. If someone isn't sure, I let them find certainty somewhere else. Because I finally understand something. The right person won't struggle to choose me. They won't need alternatives. They won't need time to decide if I'm enough. They won't treat me like a possibility. They'll treat me like a decision. And until that shows up, I'm not missing out. I'm filtering. So I'm done asking, why am I never the first choice? Now the question is simpler. If I'm not your first choice, why are you still an option for me? And that's the shift. I've been thinking about something lately. There's a difference between being loved and being convenient, and sometimes I can't tell which one I am. Because you say you love me, you act like you care, you stay, but staying isn't the same as investing. You can stay in someone's life because they're easy, because they're understanding, because they don't cause too many problems, because they don't threaten your comfort. That doesn't automatically mean you love them deeply. And that's where my mind starts wandering. If I stop being easy, if I stopped being patient, if I stopped adjusting when you're distant, if I stopped giving you the benefit of the doubt every time something feels off, would you still love me the same? Or would things start feeling heavier to you? Because I love in a way that's active. I think about you when you're not around. I consider how my actions affect you. I replay conversations to make sure I didn't hurt you unintentionally. I check in even when I'm tired. And I don't do that to be praised. I do that because I care, so when I don't feel that same level of intentionality back, it doesn't make me angry. It makes me unsure, because love shouldn't feel like something one person maintains. It shouldn't feel like if I stopped trying, everything would slowly collapse. Sometimes I wonder if you love the way I show up for you, but not the actual weight of loving me back, because loving me means consistency. It means emotional awareness. It means showing up even when you're stressed. It means reassuring without being asked 5 times. And I don't know if you're loving me or just enjoying how I love you. And that difference matters more than people think. Because I don't want to be someone's peace if I'm not also their priority. I don't want to be someone's stability if I'm not also deeply valued. I don't want to be easy to keep just because I'm hard to lose. I want to feel chosen loudly enough that I don't question it silently. And lately, I've been questioning it. I think what makes this question uncomfortable is that nothing is technically wrong. You're not cruel, you're not distant all the time, you're not openly careless. But love isn't just about what someone isn't doing. It's about what they are doing consistently. And sometimes I feel like I'm filling in emotional gaps you don't even notice are there. When I feel tension, I address it. When I sense distance, I close it. When communication weakens, I strengthen it. But when I pull back slightly, even a little, I can feel the difference immediately, and that tells me something. Because if the connection shifts the moment I stop overcompensating, then maybe I've been holding more weight than I realized. And that's exhausting. Not physically, emotionally. Because loving someone deeply while wondering if they love you with the same intentionality creates a quiet insecurity you don't talk about out loud. You start asking yourself subtle questions. If I didn't initiate, would they? If I didn't reassure, would they? If I didn't bring warmth into the conversation, would it still feel warm? And I don't want to think like that. I don't want to calculate effort. I don't want to measure energy. But imbalance forces you to notice patterns, and patterns don't lie. There's also a difference between being wanted and being valued. Wanted is temporary, wanted is emotional in the moment, valued is consistent. Valued means you're considered in decisions, valued means your feelings are handled carefully, valued means someone protects the connection even when things feel stable. Sometimes I feel wanted, but I don't always feel protected. And protection doesn't mean control, it means awareness. It means someone thinking, I don't want to lose this, so I'll handle it with care. I want to feel like that. I don't want to be someone you assume will always stay. I want to be someone you actively choose to keep, because there's a dangerous comfort in knowing someone is loyal. It can make you relax too much. It can make you stop trying as hard. It can make you think effort isn't urgent anymore. But love without continued effort slowly turns into maintenance, and maintenance feels transactional. I don't want to be loved because I'm stable. I don't want to be loved because I'm understanding. I don't want to be loved because I don't make things difficult. I want to be loved because I matter, because my presence is important to you, because losing me would actually affect you, not just inconvenience you. And if I ever have to question that for too long, then something isn't landing the way love should. Because when you're deeply loved, you don't feel like you're the only one holding the emotional glue together. You feel supported, you feel met, you feel secure enough to stop asking whether you're too much. And until I feel that consistently, not just in moments, not just after I express doubt, that question will keep circling in my mind. Do you love me, or do you just like having me around? There's something I haven't said out loud. I think I'm afraid of being loved comfortably. Not passionately, not intentionally, comfortably. Comfortable love is quiet. It assumes I'll always be there. It stops checking as much. It stops pursuing as much. It stops protecting the connection as carefully. And it doesn't look toxic. It just slowly feels less alive, less intentional. Because in the beginning, you pay attention to everything. You notice small mood changes, you ask deeper questions, you show up with energy. But once things feel secure, once I've proven I'm loyal, once you feel like I'm not going anywhere, do you still put in that same care? Or do you relax into the assumption that I'll always adjust? Because here's the truth, I do adjust. I understand when you're tired, I understand when you're stressed, I understand when you need space, but understanding shouldn't mean I absorb everything. It shouldn't mean I silently carry the emotional difference. And sometimes I feel like I do. Sometimes I feel like I love you in ways that require awareness, and you love me in ways that require comfort. There's a difference. Awareness asks, how does this affect them? Comfort asks, they'll understand. And I always do. But at what cost? Because when you're the emotionally steady one, the patient one, the consistent one, people forget you still need reassurance too. They forget you still need to feel chosen. They forget that even the calmest person can start questioning things if effort shifts. And I've felt shifts, not dramatic ones, small ones, less curiosity, less intentional communication, less urgency to fix small disconnects. And when small disconnects aren't addressed, they grow, not into explosions, into distance. And distance is quiet, it doesn't scream, it settles, it makes you feel slightly alone even when someone is right there. That's the part that scares me, not losing you. Feeling alone while still having you. Because if I'm going to love someone deeply, I don't want to feel like I'm maintaining it by myself. I don't want to feel like my emotional awareness is what keeps us stable. I want to feel met. I want to feel like if I pull back slightly, you lean in. I want to feel like if I'm overwhelmed, you step up. I want to feel like if I go quiet, you notice without me announcing it. That's love. Not just staying, not just saying it, but actively participating in it. And until I feel that consistently, not just when I bring it up, not just after conflict, not just when I look distant, that question will sit with me. Are you loving me deeply, or just loving the fact that I make things easy? I think the hardest truth I'm slowly accepting is this. If I have to constantly question the depth of your love, then something about it doesn't feel secure. And love without security becomes anxiety. Not loud anxiety, quiet anxiety. The kind where I replay conversations in my head, the kind where I overanalyze tone, the kind where I wonder if I'm asking for too much just because I want consistency. And I don't want to be that version of myself. I don't want to love guarded. I don't want to measure how much I give. I don't want to calculate who initiates more. I don't want to mentally track effort just to reassure myself that things are balanced, because love shouldn't feel like an equation. It shouldn't feel like if I relax, everything will slowly fall apart. It should feel shared, protected from both sides, maintained by both people. There's a difference between being loved and being relied on. Being relied on means you're useful. Being loved means you're valued. Being relied on means you bring stability. Being loved means someone protects your emotional stability too. Being relied on feels good at first. It feels important, but over time, if it's not matched with intentional care, it starts to feel heavy, because I don't want to be the emotional backbone of something without feeling emotionally supported myself. And here's the part that really matters. If I stopped being the easy one, if I stopped being the understanding one, if I stopped smoothing over tension before it grows, if I stopped filling emotional gaps without mentioning them, would you step up? Would you fight for it the same way? Would you lean in instead of leaning back? Or would things slowly drift because I'm no longer overcompensating? That question tells me everything, because real love doesn't depend on one person's emotional maturity to survive. Real love meets you halfway. It notices your silence. It responds to your distance with concern, not ego. It protects your heart even when you're not actively asking for protection. And I don't want dramatic love. I don't want obsessive love. I don't want love that feels like chaos. I want love that feels intentional. I want to feel chosen without begging for it. I want to feel prioritized without competing for it. I want to feel secure without constantly seeking proof. Because if you truly love me deeply, I won't feel like I'm guessing. I won't feel like I'm trying to convince myself. I won't feel like I'm the one holding the emotional glue together. I'll feel it in your consistency, in your effort after comfort sets in your willingness to maintain what we have instead of assuming it will maintain itself. And maybe you do love me, but if I constantly feel like I'm the one protecting the connection, then it's not balanced. And love without balance eventually becomes exhaustion. So the real question isn't just, do you love me? It's this: if I stop making it easy to love me, would you still love me the same? Or have I just been convenient all along? There's something about half-secure love that changes you slowly, not overnight, not dramatically, but quietly. You stop asking for reassurance because you don't want to seem needy. You stop bringing up small things because you don't want to create tension. You start telling yourself it's not that serious, even when it is. And little by little, you become smaller inside the relationship, not because you're weak, because you're trying to protect it. But protection shouldn't only come from one side. I shouldn't feel like I'm constantly managing the emotional temperature. I shouldn't feel like I'm the one making sure things don't drift, because when you love someone deeply, you don't just assume they'll stay. You actively maintain the connection. You don't just rely on their loyalty. You honor it. And sometimes I wonder if you've gotten used to me, used to my patience, used to my consistency, used to the fact that I rarely overreact. And being used to is dangerous, because comfort without effort turns into complacency, and complacency slowly turns into distance. And distance is what makes someone start asking questions they never wanted to ask. I don't need to be chased every day, but I do need to feel chosen every day. There's a difference. Chasing is about excitement. Choosing is about intention. Choosing means you still show effort after the honeymoon phase fades. Choosing means you still check in emotionally even when nothing is wrong. Choosing means you don't let comfort replace care. And that's what I crave. Not intensity, not drama, not chaos disguised as passion. I want steady love, the kind where I don't have to analyze tone, the kind where I don't feel like I'm overthinking every small shift. the kind where my nervous system isn't constantly scanning for changes, because when love feels secure, your body relaxes. You don't brace for distance, you don't anticipate inconsistency, you don't question whether you matter that day, and lately I've caught myself bracing. That's what scares me. I've realized something about myself. When I start questioning whether I'm loved, I don't get loud, I get quiet, I observe more, I speak less, I test nothing, but I notice everything. I notice if you initiate, I notice if you reassure without being prompted, I notice if your effort stays steady or fluctuates, and if it fluctuates too much, I don't argue. I slowly detach, not because I want to, but because protecting my heart becomes instinct, and once I start detaching, it's hard to reverse, because detachment doesn't come from anger, it comes from exhaustion, from feeling like you've been carrying something emotionally alone for too long, and I don't want to detach from you. I want to feel secure with you, but security requires reciprocity. I think what hurts most is the possibility that you love me in your own way, but not in the way I need. And love isn't just about what you feel internally, it's about how it translates externally. If your love makes me feel unsure, if your love makes me feel like I'm asking for too much when I ask for consistency, if your love makes me feel like I have to shrink to keep the peace, then something isn't aligning, because real love doesn't make you question your value. It reinforces it. It doesn't make you wonder if you're too emotional. It makes you feel safe expressing emotion. And I don't want to be in a position where I'm constantly explaining why I need reassurance. I want it to feel natural, mutual, balanced. Here's the truth I don't say out loud. I don't want to compete with your comfort. I don't want to fight against your laziness. I don't want to beg for effort that should come naturally when someone truly values you. Because if you deeply loved me, you wouldn't want to risk losing me through neglect. You wouldn't let small disconnects grow. You wouldn't assume I'll always stay no matter what. You would treat the connection like it matters, not just when things feel unstable, but especially when things feel secure. Because secure love still requires maintenance, it still requires intention, it still requires showing up fully. And if I ever feel like I'm the only one doing that consistently, that's when love starts feeling heavy instead of safe. So do you love me? Or do you just like having me? Because those two things look similar at first, but over time, they feel very different. Liking having me means you enjoy my presence. Loving me means you protect it. Liking having me means you're comfortable. Loving me means you're intentional. Liking having me means you assume I'll stay. Loving me means you make sure I want to, and I don't want to stay somewhere I feel half secure. I don't want to slowly shrink just to keep something alive. I don't want to love loudly while feeling loved quietly. I want balance. I want mutual effort. I want to feel so consistently chosen that I stop asking myself this question entirely, because when you are deeply loved, you don't sit alone wondering. You feel it in the way they show up every day, not perfectly, but intentionally. And if I ever have to keep convincing myself that I'm loved, then maybe I'm not asking for too much. Maybe I'm just ready for a love that makes the answer obvious. You don't chase love because you're romantic. You chase love because you don't know how to sit with yourself yet. Because silence makes your thoughts loud. Because being alone feels like proof that something about you isn't enough. So you look for love to fill the space. You attach quickly. You overextend. You give more than you should, sooner than you should. Not because you're stupid, but because being chosen feels like relief. Like if someone wants you, then maybe you can stop questioning yourself for a while. You don't just want connection. You want validation. You want someone to prove that you're worth staying for, worth prioritizing, worth choosing. So when someone shows interest, you lean in hard, you ignore red flags, you excuse inconsistency. You tell yourself, if I love them better, they'll love me back. And when they pull away, it doesn't just hurt, it confirms your worst fear, that you weren't enough. So you try harder, you become more available, more understanding, more forgiving than you should be. You abandon parts of yourself just to keep someone close, and you call it love, but deep down you know the truth. You're not chasing them. You're chasing the feeling of being wanted, because when someone loves you, even temporarily, it quiets the voice in your head that says you're unlovable on your own. That's why breakups destroy you. You don't just lose the person, you lose the version of yourself that felt okay for a moment. You lose the distraction. You lose the proof. You lose the illusion that someone else could fix what you haven't faced yet. And that's the part no one wants to admit. Chasing love like this isn't romance. It's avoidance. It's using someone else's attention to avoid learning how to give it to yourself. Because loving yourself is harder than loving someone else. It means sitting with your flaws without asking someone to overlook them. It means choosing yourself without needing applause. It means learning how to feel whole without being held together by another person. And that terrifies you, so you chase love instead. But here's the shift, the part that hurts before it heals. The moment you stop chasing love to fill the emptiness, you start attracting it from a different place. Not desperation, not fear, not self-doubt, but choice. Because real love doesn't arrive to save you. It arrives when you're no longer asking someone else to convince you that you matter. And until you learn to sit with yourself, without distraction, without validation, without escape, every love you chase will feel heavier than it should. You don't need someone to love you harder. You need to stop outsourcing your worth. And when you finally do, love stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like connection. You don't chase love because you're passionate. You chase it because being alone feels unbearable. Because when things get quiet, your thoughts get loud, and they don't tell you kind things. So you look for someone else to sit in that space with you, to distract you, to validate you, to make you feel wanted enough to forget how little you feel about yourself. You don't just want connection, you want relief. Relief from the constant feeling that something about you is missing, that you're behind, that if you were enough, someone would have stayed by now. So when someone shows interest, you grab onto it, you attach fast, you give more than you should, you bend your boundaries before they even ask, not because you're weak, but because being chosen feels like proof. Like if someone wants you, then maybe the voice in your head can finally shut up for a while. You start confusing attention with love, consistency with commitment, chemistry with safety, and when they pull away, it doesn't just hurt, it confirms everything you were afraid of. So you chase harder, you explain more, you forgive more, you accept less. You tell yourself that if you just love them better, they'll love you back the way you need. But what you're really doing is asking someone else to give you a sense of worth you don't know how to give yourself yet. And that's why it feels so desperate, because it's not about them. It's about the fear that without love, you have nothing to stand on. This isn't romance, it's survival. And until you learn how to sit with yourself without needing someone else to make you feel okay, every love you chase will feel heavier than it should. At some point, chasing love turns into abandoning yourself. You stop asking what you need and start asking what they want, how much space to give, how much to hold back, how to be easier to stay with. You shrink in small ways at first. You don't bring things up because you don't want to seem difficult. You accept less effort because at least they're still here. You tell yourself you're being understanding when really you're being afraid that if you ask for more, they'll leave. So you adapt. You become more available than you should, more forgiving than is healthy. You explain away behavior that already made you feel small, and every time you do, you move a little further away from yourself, but you call it love. You tell yourself this is what it means to fight for someone, to be patient, to be loyal. What you don't realize yet is that real love doesn't require you to disappear quietly. The reason chasing feels exhausting is because you're running from your own emptiness. You're hoping someone else will choose you loudly enough to silence the doubt inside you. So when they pull back, your anxiety spikes, you replay conversations, you blame yourself, you look for ways to fix it, not because you were wrong, but because you're terrified of being left alone with yourself again. And that's the cycle. The more you chase, the more you lose your footing. The more you lose yourself, the more you need them to feel okay. That's why it hurts so much. Not because they were everything, but because you made them responsible for holding you together. And no one can carry that forever. This is the part people avoid talking about. Chasing love like this doesn't mean you care deeply. It means you don't feel grounded without external validation. And until you learn how to stand on your own, how to sit with yourself without needing to be chosen, love will keep feeling like something you have to earn instead of something you share. When you chase love from a place of emptiness, you don't attract people who pour into you. You attract people who take, not always intentionally, not always maliciously, but people who sense, even subconsciously, that you're willing to overgive just to stay connected. They feel how flexible you are, how much you're willing to adjust, how far you'll bend before you break. So they let you. They accept your effort without matching it. They enjoy your presence without committing to it. They keep you close enough to benefit from your care, but far enough to avoid responsibility. And because you're chasing, you don't question it at first. You tell yourself, this is just how relationships work. That love takes patience, that maybe they just need time. But deep down, something feels off. You're always the one checking in, always the one clarifying, always the one trying to fix the distance that keeps appearing out of nowhere. And instead of asking why they're inconsistent, you ask what you did wrong. That's the trap. Chasing love trains you to blame yourself for other people's lack of effort. You start believing that if someone isn't choosing you, it's because you didn't love them well enough. So you try harder. You give more reassurance, more patience, more access to parts of you that should have been protected, and the dynamic deepens. They stay comfortable, you stay anxious, they get affection without accountability, you get hope without security, and that imbalance keeps repeating until you finally see it for what it is. You're not unlucky in love, you're just chasing from a place that tells the wrong people you'll accept less than you deserve, because people who are capable of real love don't feel comfortable being chased. They meet you halfway. The ones who stay distant, inconsistent, unclear, they stay because the chase benefits them. And until you stop chasing to feel worthy, you'll keep finding yourself in the same story with different faces. Eventually, there's a moment where chasing love stops feeling hopeful and starts feeling exhausting. You realize you're tired, not because love is hard, but because you've been doing all the emotional work alone. You're the one overthinking, the one adjusting, the one trying to hold something together that keeps slipping through your fingers. And for the first time, you ask a quiet question you've been avoiding. Why does love feel like something I have to prove myself worthy of? That question is uncomfortable because it points inward. It forces you to see that chasing love has been a distraction, a way to avoid sitting with yourself, a way to avoid asking why you don't feel enough without someone choosing you. Because as long as you're focused on them, their mixed signals, their distance, their inconsistency, you don't have to face the emptiness underneath. You don't have to ask why you're afraid of being alone, why validation feels necessary, why rejection feels like confirmation instead of redirection. So you keep chasing, but here's the truth that hurts before it heals. Chasing love delays self-healing. Every ounce of energy you spend trying to be chosen is energy you're not spending, learning how to choose yourself, and that's why nothing ever feels settled. Because no matter who you're with, you're still looking to them to fix something they didn't break. They can't give you security you haven't built internally. They can't love you into self-worth. They can't silence the doubt that existed before they arrived. And once you see that, chasing loses its appeal. Not because you stop wanting love, but because you realize love isn't supposed to feel like survival. It's supposed to feel like addition, not rescue. And the moment you stop running from yourself is the moment the chase starts to lose its power. Learning how to sit with yourself is the hardest part of this whole process, because when you stop chasing love, there's nothing left to distract you. No text to wait for, no signals to decode, no person to center your emotions around, just you. And And that's when everything you've been avoiding comes to the surface. The insecurity you buried under effort, the loneliness you masked with attachment, the belief that without someone choosing you, you don't really matter. It feels uncomfortable at first, almost unbearable. You reach for your phone instinctively. You miss the chaos. You miss feeling needed. Because chasing gave your pain direction, it gave your emptiness a target. Now there's nowhere to run. And this is where most people go back. They re-enter old dynamics, text people they shouldn't, lower their standards just enough to feel wanted again, not because they're weak, but because sitting with yourself requires honesty. It forces you to see that no one abandoned you the way you've been abandoning yourself. Every time you chased someone who was unsure, you told yourself your needs could wait. Every time you accepted inconsistency, you taught yourself to tolerate being half-chosen. So being alone feels unfamiliar, not because you can't handle it, but because you've never stayed here long enough to build something solid inside yourself. This is where self-love actually starts, not affirmations, not confidence quotes, but learning how to stay when there's no validation coming in, learning how to comfort yourself instead of outsourcing it, learning how to choose yourself without needing approval. And slowly, something shifts. You stop craving attention. You stop confusing intensity with connection. You stop chasing people who feel familiar for the wrong reasons. Because now, you're no longer running from yourself. And when you stop doing that, love stops feeling like something you need to survive. When you finally start building self-love, the chase doesn't just slow down. It feels wrong. You notice it first in small ways. The anxiety doesn't hook you the same. Inconsistency doesn't feel exciting anymore. It feels draining. People who once felt magnetic now feel loud, unclear, unsafe, and that confuses you because for so long, chaos felt like chemistry. You were drawn to people who kept you guessing because guessing felt familiar, because uncertainty mirrored how unsure you felt about yourself. But now that you're learning how to stand on your own, that dynamic stops working. You don't feel the urge to prove yourself anymore. You don't feel the need to over-explain your worth. And suddenly, chasing feels humiliating, not because you're above it, but because you're finally grounded enough to feel how one-sided it always was. You start wanting different things: clarity instead of sparks, consistency instead of intensity, presence instead of pursuit. You want to be met, not chased or chasing. And here's the part people don't expect. Self-love makes some connections fall apart. People who benefited from your overgiving feel the shift immediately. They sense you're no longer bending, no longer available on demand, no longer trying to earn their attention, and some of them leave. Not because you changed for the worse, but because the version of you that chased them is gone. That can hurt, because even when you're healing, loss still feels like loss, but this time it doesn't destroy you, because you're no longer tying your value to someone else's choice. You understand something now. Love that requires chasing is love that feeds on insecurity, and love that's healthy doesn't need pursuit to survive. It shows up, it stays, it chooses you without being convinced, and the more you learn how to love yourself quietly, consistently, honestly, the less tolerance you have for anything that makes you feel like you need to beg to belong. When the chasing finally stops, a new fear shows up. Not the fear of being alone, but the fear of trusting love again without desperation. Because now you're calmer, more grounded, less reactive, and that feels unfamiliar. You're used to love coming with anxiety, with overthinking, with that constant urge to secure someone's attention before it disappears. So when things are steady, part of you doesn't know what to do. You wait for the other shoe to drop. You look for signs something is wrong. You brace yourself for distance that never comes, because chaos used to feel like proof that something mattered. Now peace feels suspicious. You're not chasing anymore, but you're still learning how to receive, how to let someone show up without questioning why, how to accept consistency without trying to earn it. And that's harder than it sounds, because chasing trained you to believe love had to be worked for. that if you weren't doing something, fixing something, proving something, it wouldn't last. So when someone meets you without needing to be convinced, your instinct is to pull back, not because you don't want it, but because you're afraid of trusting something that isn't fueled by fear. This is the quiet stage of healing, where you're not running anymore, but you're not fully relaxed either. You're learning that love doesn't have to feel urgent to be real, that being chosen calmly is still being chosen, and slowly you start letting yourself believe it. You stop checking for exits, stop rehearsing disappointment, stop preparing for abandonment that hasn't happened, because for the first time, you're not chasing to feel worthy. You're standing still and letting love come to you. And that's when you realize how much strength it actually takes to stay. When you stop needing love to save you, everything about it changes. You're not chasing anymore, but you're also not hiding. You're just stable, and that's unfamiliar. You notice how different it feels to want someone instead of needing them. There's no panic behind it, no urgency, no feeling that if this doesn't work out, you'll fall apart. And that scares you in a new way, because chasing gave you purpose. It gave your emotions somewhere to go. It made love feel intense, consuming, alive. Now love feels quieter, not empty, just grounded. You don't lose yourself in people anymore. You don't rearrange your life to keep someone interested. You don't abandon your needs to avoid being left. And because of that, you become harder to hook, not emotionally unavailable, just unavailable to dynamics that require you to shrink. You start noticing things you used to ignore, how someone responds to boundaries, how they handle consistency, how they show up when you're not overgiving. And if they fade when you stop chasing, you don't panic, you understand. They weren't there for you. They were there for the version of you that was always reaching. That realization hurts, but it also frees you. Because now you know love that disappears when you stop chasing was never love meant to stay. This is where self-love changes the rules. You don't try to be impressive, you don't try to be indispensable, you don't try to secure someone's feelings. You let them show you who they are when you're not doing all the work, and for the first time, love feels optional, not because it doesn't matter, but because your worth no longer depends on it. You're not chasing to fill a void anymore. You're choosing from a place that already feels whole, and that's when love stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like something you can welcome without losing yourself. Healing doesn't just bring relief, it brings grief, because when you stop chasing love, you don't just lose old dynamics, you lose the version of yourself who survived by reaching. You look back at who you were and feel a strange mix of sadness and compassion. You remember how hard you tried, how much you gave, how badly you wanted to be chosen, and part of you wants to go back, not because it was healthy, but because it was familiar. Chasing gave you direction. It gave your pain something to focus on. It made loneliness feel purposeful. Now that version of you is gone, and that hurts. You grieve the person who believed love had to be earned, who thought being enough meant being useful, agreeable, easy to keep. You grieve the nights you waited, the messages you rewrote, the boundaries you swallowed just to stay connected, not because you were weak, but because you didn't know another way yet. And healing means accepting something painful. No one did this to you. You did it because you didn't know how to hold yourself without being held. That realization can feel brutal because it removes the villain. There's no one left to blame, just patterns you learn to survive something deeper. So you sit with it, with the sadness, with the regret, with the understanding that you were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. And slowly, that grief turns into respect. Respect for how much you endured, for how deeply you wanted love, for how brave it was to keep believing, even in the wrong places. You don't hate the old version of you. You thank them because they carried you until you were strong enough to stop chasing and start choosing yourself. And that's what makes this stage heavy. You're not broken anymore, but you're still letting go. The chase ends the moment you stop asking love to fix you, not because you stop wanting connection, but because you stop needing it to feel whole. You finally understand something simple that took you years to learn. Love was never supposed to be proof that you matter. It was never meant to carry your worth, never meant to quiet your self-doubt, never meant to save you from yourself. That was too much to ask of anyone. So you stopped chasing, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in clarity. You stop running after people who make you feel uncertain. Stop explaining your needs to people who don't listen. Stop overgiving just to feel chosen, because now being chosen by yourself comes first. You learn how to sit with silence without panicking, how to be alone without feeling abandoned, how to exist without needing constant reassurance, and something changes. Love no longer feels urgent, it no longer feels like survival. It no longer feels like something you have to secure before it disappears. It becomes optional, not because it's unimportant, but because your life no longer collapses without it. And that's when the real shift happens. You don't attract love from desperation anymore. You don't bond through wounds. You don't mistake intensity for connection. You choose slowly. You choose clearly. You choose from a place that isn't begging to be filled. And if someone doesn't meet you there, you don't chase. You let them go, not because you don't care, but because you care enough about yourself to stop repeating the same pain with different people. The version of you that chased love wasn't weak. They were hurting, they were lonely, they were trying to survive. But this version of you, this version doesn't run. They stand still, they breathe, they choose themselves even when no one is watching. And from here on out, love won't feel like something you have to earn. It'll feel like something you share with someone who meets you without being chased. That's where the cycle ends. Not with finding love, but with finally finding yourself. I feel like every guy has that one girl who broke his heart, and no matter how much time passes, no matter how much healing he does, there's always going to be a soft spot for her. You'll never truly hate her. You'll never completely erase her from your life. You might stop chasing her. You might stop trying to prove yourself, but the connection you had with her, that never fully dies, or maybe you just never let it. And I don't know why this happens, but a lot of the time when a girl breaks your heart, she still wants to stay friends. Now, most guys don't want that. Being friends with someone who shattered you isn't easy. It's confusing, but somehow there's always that one girl where the rules don't apply. No matter how much pain she caused, no matter how much she hurt you, intentionally or not, you still make room for her in your heart. When she texts, you reply, maybe not instantly, but faster than you should. And sometimes, without realizing it, you start putting her above yourself. You're there for her problems, her bad days, her heartbreaks, even when you know deep down that if the roles were reversed, she wouldn't do the same for you. And that's the part that hurts the most, because you're not doing it because you're weak. You're doing it because you loved her genuinely, because at one point she meant everything to you. A lot of the time it's that first girl you truly fell in love with, the first one who made you feel seen, the first one who felt like home, and letting her go completely feels impossible. Sometimes holding on to that connection feels comforting. Sometimes it feels like self-destruction. So just understand this. There's nothing wrong with caring. There's nothing wrong with loving deeply, but you have to recognize when that love is being taken advantage of. Don't let the feelings you still have for her, or the bond you're scared to lose, be the reason you keep hurting yourself, because the girl who broke your heart should never be the one who keeps breaking it. Lust has a way of quietly taking control if you don't pay attention to it, and it doesn't usually show up as something obvious or destructive at first. It shows up as a craving, a distraction, a feeling that you need something, someone right now. And that's why it's dangerous. Lust should be treated like a warning light on a dashboard, not something to ignore and not something to chase, but something telling you to look deeper. When lust starts to feel overwhelming, it's often not about desire at all. It's about what's missing. It's a signal that you might be lacking intimacy in your life. And intimacy doesn't always mean romance or physical connection. Intimacy is feeling understood, feeling close, feeling grounded. That can come from meaningful friendships, family conversations, spiritual connection, prayer, or simply spending time with yourself without running from your thoughts. A lot of people mistake lust for connection because it temporarily fills a void. It gives you a rush, something to focus on, something that makes you feel wanted or alive. But once that feeling fades, the emptiness is still there. Sometimes it's even louder than before. That's how people end up stuck in cycles, chasing momentary satisfaction while pushing real healing further away. That craving you feel isn't something to be ashamed of, it's information. It's your mind and body telling you that something inside you needs attention. Maybe you're lonely, maybe you're disconnected from yourself, maybe you've been avoiding emotions you don't want to sit with. Lust becomes an escape when facing those feelings feels too uncomfortable. The problem starts when you indulge in it without awareness, when you constantly distract yourself instead of asking why the feeling is there in the first place. Every time you choose the distraction, you delay the work, you delay the growth, you delay becoming whole again. Instead of acting on that urge, pause. Ask yourself what you're really craving. Is it closeness? Is it validation? Is it comfort? Is it peace? Those needs can't be fulfilled by desire alone. They require honesty with yourself and sometimes discipline to sit with discomfort long enough to understand it. Healing begins when you stop running from the signal and start listening to it. Lust isn't the enemy. Ignoring what it's trying to show you is. When you learn to recognize it as a sign instead of a solution, you gain control over it instead of letting it control you. And that awareness can change everything. I don't care how corny it sounds, I'll never stop being a lover boy. Not until I get the kind of love I've always imagined. The kind where there is no one else, no distractions, no half interest, just one person in a world that feels smaller because of it. I want that kind of love where it doesn't wander, where nobody else even registers, where loving them feels natural, not forced. The kind of love that feels cinematic without trying. Just two people driving nowhere, standing in open fields, traveling for no reason other than wanting to be together. The kind of love you don't just feel in your chest, you feel it in your soul, hot, intense, alive. And I don't understand how people walk around acting indifferent to that. Love is something casual, like it doesn't matter, because love is everything. Sharing the world with someone, learning their habits, knowing their moods, understanding them in ways nobody else does. Going from strangers to someone you can't imagine life without, there's nothing like it. And yeah, love comes with risk, heartbreak, loss, pain, but I'm here for all of it, because if that's the price of loving deeply, I'll pay it. I'll take the heartbreak, I'll take the uncertainty, I'll take the risk. The lover boy in me isn't dying. It can't. What makes it hard sometimes isn't loving deeply. It's loving deeply in a world that pretends not to care. People act like being attached is embarrassing, like wanting someone fully is something you should hide. They call it nonchalant. They call it cool. They call it protecting yourself. But to me, it just feels empty. I don't want love that's casual. I don't want half interest. I don't want to act like I wouldn't be crushed if I lost someone I care about. I want to feel it. I want the kind of love where my heart is all the way in. No exits, no backups, no pretending. And yeah, that makes me vulnerable. It means I get hurt easier. It means I feel things more intensely, but I'd rather feel everything than live numb just to look unbothered, because loving deeply isn't weakness, it's courage. It takes guts to say I want you fully. I'm choosing you. I'm not scared to care. And maybe that's why it feels lonely sometimes, because not everyone is built to love like that. But I am. And I'm not gonna dull that part of me just to fit into a world that treats love like it's optional. Loving this way hurts more because you don't do it halfway. You don't keep one foot out the door. You don't love with conditions. You don't calculate how much to give. When you fall completely. And that means when things don't work out, it hits harder. You don't just lose a person, you lose the future you already imagined, the places you pictured going together, the version of yourself that only existed with them. People say, I don't get your hopes up, protect your care less, but that's never been you. You don't know how to want someone quietly, you don't know how to love without meaning it, and you don't want to learn, because even when it hurts, loving deeply still feels better than pretending you don't care. Yeah, heartbreak changes you. It slows you down, makes you cautious for a while, but it never kills that part of you that believes in something more. And that's the difference. Some people close their hearts after pain. Others keep theirs open, not because they're naive, but because they refuse to let disappointment turn them cold. You don't love deeply because it's easy. You love deeply because that's who you are. And even when it costs you, You'd rather feel everything than live a life that feels empty. The truth is, you already know how this can end. You know love can break you. You know it can leave scars. You know it can take pieces you don't get back, and still you choose it. Not because you're reckless, not because you're desperate, but because a life without love feels smaller than a life with heartbreak. You're not chasing perfection, you're chasing connection. The kind that makes the world feel louder and quieter at the same time. The kind that turns ordinary moments into memories. The kind that makes you feel seen in ways words can't explain. People say love like that is unrealistic, that it only exists in movies or stories, but you've felt glimpses of it, enough to know it's real, and once you've felt that, you can't pretend you don't want it anymore. So yeah, you risk it again, you open your heart again, you believe again, not because you forgot the pain, but because you decided it wasn't stronger than your capacity to love. Being a lover boy doesn't mean you ignore reality, it means you face it and still choose love anyway. When you say you want that kind of love, you're not talking about perfection, you're not chasing fantasy or some unrealistic fairy tale ending. You're talking about presence, the kind of love where you don't feel alone even when you're silent, where being together feels natural, not forced, where effort doesn't feel like work. Is waking up and knowing there's one person in the world who chooses you without hesitation, not because they have to, but because they want to. It's traveling with no plan and still feeling grounded, standing in open spaces and realizing the world feels fuller just because they're next to you. It's loyalty without fear, commitment without control, love that feels intense but never unsafe. That's the kind of love you want. Not obsession, not possession, connection. The kind where you don't question intentions, you don't wonder where you stand, you don't compete with distractions, you're just there, fully, openly chosen, and wanting that doesn't make you unrealistic, it makes you honest. Because once you know how deeply you can love, you stop settling for anything that asks you to dim that fire. Waiting doesn't scare you, settling does. You've seen what happens when people accept less than what they feel. They grow distant, they grow quiet, they start convincing themselves that good enough is enough, and you don't want that. You don't want a love that feels convenient. You don't want someone who chooses you only when it's easy. You want someone who stays when it's real, when it's messy, when it requires effort. So you wait, not because you think you're better than anyone, but because you know yourself. You know how deeply you love, you know how much you give, and you know what happens when that kind of heart ends up in the wrong hands. You'd rather be alone than feel lonely next to someone who doesn't meet you where you stand. And yeah, some days it gets heavy, watching people pair off, watching others settle into relationships that look fine on the surface, but deep down, you're not jealous. You're patient, because you're not searching for company, you're waiting for alignment, or someone who doesn't flinch at your intensity, who doesn't joke about your softness, who doesn't treat your loyalty like it's replaceable. You're waiting for someone who wants the same kind of love you do, all in, no exits, and until that shows up, you're not lowering your standards, you're protecting your heart. If it ever happens, when someone finally matches your energy, you'll feel the difference immediately. Not fireworks, not chaos, not anxiety disguised as excitement, clarity. You won't question where you stand. You won't wonder if you're asking for too much. You won't feel like you're loving harder than you're being loved. It'll feel mutual in a way you're not used to. They won't flinch at your intensity. They won't joke about you caring too much. They won't act overwhelmed by the way you love. They'll meet it. Your effort won't scare them. It'll reassure them. Your loyalty won't feel rare. It'll feel natural. And the craziest part, you won't feel like you're chasing anything. No convincing. No proving, no waiting for them to catch up emotionally. They'll already be there, and suddenly all that waiting makes sense. All the times you didn't settle, all the times you walked away, all the times you chose being alone over being half loved. You'll realize you weren't asking for too much, you were just asking the wrong people. When someone finally loves you the way you've always loved others, it won't feel overwhelming. It'll feel right. At the end of everything, after the waiting, the heartbreak, the disappointment, the almost one thing never leaves. Your capacity to love, you don't lose it, even when people try to convince you that you should, even when the world rewards detachment, even when acting unbothered looks easier, even when caring deeply costs you more than you expected, because loving fully was never a phase for you. It's part of who you are. You were built to feel things deeply, to choose one person and mean it, to love in a way that's intentional, loyal, and complete. And yeah, that makes you vulnerable, but it also makes you real. The lover boy in you survives every heartbreak, not because you forget the pain, but because you decide it's not stronger than your heart. You don't regret loving, you don't regret believing, you don't regret wanting something rare, because one day someone will meet you in that same place. They won't laugh at your intensity. They won't treat your love like it's extra. They won't ask you to tone it down. They'll recognize it, and when that happens, everything you held on to will make sense. So no, the lover boy in you doesn't die, he just waits. And when the right love finally arrives, he'll be ready. You keep ignoring the red flags because all you want is love, not peace, not respect, not consistency, just love. You see the signs, you see the unanswered calls, the constant busy, the way you're always an option, never a priority. And instead of asking why it hurts, you ask how to endure it. You tell yourself it's patience, that it's loyalty, that love means staying even when it costs you. But let's be honest, she doesn't check on you, she doesn't consider your feelings, she doesn't show up the way you do. And you know that. You just don't want to face what it says about you for staying. So here's the real question you've been avoiding. How much do you actually love yourself? Because when you stay in situations that keep hurting you, when you keep accepting disrespect just to feel close to someone, that's not love. That's neglect. If you truly loved yourself, you wouldn't keep choosing pain just to feel wanted. You wouldn't keep lowering your standards to keep someone around who clearly isn't choosing you back. But you don't protect yourself, you sacrifice yourself, because being alone scares you more than being hurt. And that's why you accept the bare minimum. That's why you stay in toxic cycles. That's why you confuse attachment with love. You're not holding on because it's good for you. You're holding on because it's the only version of love you think you deserve. And that's the lie. You don't need someone else to complete you. What you actually need is to stop outsourcing your worth. Because the moment you start loving yourself, really loving yourself, you stop begging for attention. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop calling pain connection. You stop chasing people who only show up halfway. Self-love doesn't make you selfish. It makes you unavailable to anything that keeps breaking you. And until you learn that, you'll keep calling suffering love and calling survival loyalty. You are worth more than crumbs. You are worth more than confusion. You are worth more than being an option. But no one can convince you of that until you decide to believe it yourself. Here's the truth you keep avoiding. You don't stay because you don't see the red flags. You stay because you think leaving means nobody else will love you. So you make excuses. She's busy. She's going through stuff. She just doesn't show love the same way. But effort isn't a love language. It's a choice. And when someone keeps choosing not to show up for you, that's not confusion, that's clarity. You're not being patient. You're being hopeful in a place that's already shown you who it is. You keep giving grace to people who wouldn't give you the same. You keep explaining your pain to someone who already decided it wasn't important enough to change. And every time you stay, you send yourself a message. My feelings come second. My needs are optional. This is the best I can get. That's not love. That's self-betrayal. You think walking away means losing them, but what you're really losing right now is respect for yourself, because someone who values you doesn't make you question your worth. They don't make you beg for consistency. They don't disappear and call it space. And the reason this keeps happening isn't because you love too hard. It's because you don't love yourself hard enough to leave when you should. The moment you start choosing yourself, red flags stop looking like obstacles and start looking like exits. And exits aren't failures, they're protection. Ignoring red flags doesn't just hurt you once, it trains people how to treat you. Every time you stay after disrespect, you teach them you'll tolerate it. Every time you forgive without change, you show them your boundaries don't mean much, and they adjust accordingly. They respond less, they try less, they care just enough to keep you around, but never enough to show up fully. Because why would they? You already proved you'll stay without effort. You think you're being understanding, but what you're really doing is normalizing behavior that shouldn't have access to you. You answer late replies immediately. You accept apologies without accountability. You let patterns repeat because you're afraid of starting over, and slowly, your standards drop while their comfort rises. That's the trade you're making. You're giving someone emotional safety while you live in emotional uncertainty. And the worst part? You start blaming yourself. You tell yourself you're asking for too much, that you're sensitive, that this is just how relationships are. But healthy love doesn't require endurance. You don't have to survive it. You don't have to fight for basic respect. You don't have to convince someone to treat you well. Red flags aren't challenges to overcome. They're warnings to listen to, and the longer you ignore them, the harder it becomes to remember what being valued even feels like. The pattern doesn't break when they change, it breaks when you do. The reason you keep ignoring red flags is because you confuse attachment with love. Love feels steady, attachment feels urgent. Love doesn't make you anxious. Attachment keeps you checking your phone, replaying conversations, wondering where you stand, and you call that passion. But what you're really feeling is fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough, fear that if you don't hold on tight, you'll be forgotten. So you cling, you stay when you should leave, you wait when there's nothing coming, you accept excuses because they're easier than facing the truth. That truth being, someone who wants you won't make you feel optional. Attachment makes you chase because it needs reassurance. Love doesn't chase, it meets. And until you learn the difference, every red flag will feel like something you just need to work through. You'll keep calling distance space, disrespect miscommunication, inconsistency timing, but your body already knows that tight feeling in your chest, that constant unease, that feeling of giving more than you're getting. That's not love warning you to try harder. That's your self-respect telling you to stop. You don't need clearer signs. You don't need closure. You don't need one more conversation. You need the courage to admit that attachment is keeping you stuck in places love would never ask you to stay. Walking away feels harder than staying because staying lets you avoid the truth. As long as you're still there, you can tell yourself it might change, that maybe tomorrow they'll care more, that maybe you're just being tested. Hope keeps you stuck because leaving means admitting you invested in something that wasn't good for you. It means admitting you ignored your instincts, that you stayed longer than you should have, that you loved someone who couldn't meet you halfway, and that hurts your pride. So instead, you endure. You tell yourself pain is temporary, that love requires sacrifice, that every relationship has rough patches, but here's the part you don't want to hear. Love doesn't consistently make you feel small. It doesn't drain you. It doesn't confuse you. It doesn't make you feel like you're asking for too much just by wanting basic respect. You stay because leaving forces accountability, not for them, but for you. It forces you to ask why you accepted less, why you ignored the signs, why you stayed quiet when your boundaries were crossed. And that's uncomfortable. But staying is costing you more than leaving ever will. Every day you remain in a situation that disrespects you, you reinforce the belief that this is all you deserve, and that belief is the real damage. Walking away isn't giving up on love, it's giving up on self-betrayal. And the moment you finally choose yourself, red flags stop feeling confusing. They feel obvious. The moment you stop ignoring red flags, everything gets quiet. No chaos, no anxiety spikes, no constant checking to see if someone still wants you. And at first, that silence feels uncomfortable because you're used to confusion. used to emotional ups and downs, used to love feeling like something you have to manage. So when you finally walk away, your brain starts questioning you. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should have stayed. Maybe this is just how love feels. But that's just withdrawal. You're not missing them. You're missing the familiarity of the pattern, because ignoring red flags wasn't just about them. It was about what you were willing to tolerate to avoid being alone. Now that you've chosen yourself, you start seeing things clearly. You realize how drained you were, how often you made excuses, how little you were actually asking for compared to how much you were giving, and that clarity changes you. You don't feel pulled toward inconsistency anymore. You don't chase mixed signals. You don't feel tempted by people who only show up halfway. Because once you experience peace, chaos stops feeling exciting. You stop romanticizing struggle. You stop believing love has to hurt. You stop confusing anxiety with connection. And here's the biggest shift. You stop trying to be chosen. You start choosing. Who gets access to you? Who gets your time? Who gets your emotional energy? Red flags don't feel like puzzles anymore. They feel like answers. And instead of asking me, can I make this work? You ask, does this protect me? That's when self-respect kicks in. Not loud, not dramatic, just firm. When you stop ignoring red flags, people from your past don't recognize you anymore. Not because you changed for the worse, but because you stopped being convenient. You don't explain yourself as much. You don't over-justify your boundaries. You don't stay in conversations that feel disrespectful or draining, and that confuses people. They're used to the version of you that stayed quiet, that gave chances, that tried to understand at the expense of being understood. So when you walk away faster now, they call you cold. They say you've changed. They say you're doing too much. But what they really mean is you're no longer available for the dynamic they benefited from. People who thrived on your tolerance don't like your standards. People who were comfortable with your silence don't like your clarity. And that's okay, because growth isn't about being liked, it's about being protected. You're not harsh, you're not bitter, you're not closed off. You're just done negotiating your self-respect. You no longer wait for disrespect to become unbearable before leaving. You don't need proof anymore. The first pattern is enough. And here's the part that matters most. The right people won't question this version of you. They won't push your boundaries. They won't test your tolerance. They won't need you to over-explain. They'll feel your standards and meet them naturally. Anyone who leaves because you stopped accepting red flags was never meant to stay anyway. That's not loss, that's alignment. Self-respect feels lonely at first, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you stopped tolerating what everyone else normalized. You don't have constant access to people anymore. You don't have drama to distract you. You don't have half connections keeping you entertained. And that quiet can feel heavy, because for a long time, chaos made you feel needed, inconsistency made you feel chosen, fixing things made you feel valuable. Now none of that is there, and your brain tries to convince you that you're missing out, that maybe you were happier when you stayed, that maybe standards are overrated, that maybe being lonely is worse than being disrespected. But that's just the adjustment period. You're unlearning a pattern where love had to hurt to feel real. Self-respect strips away the noise and leaves you with truth. You start seeing how many connections were built on convenience instead of care. How many people stayed because you made it easy for them, not because they valued you. And yes, that realization stings, but it also gives you something you didn't have before. Peace, no guessing, no waiting, no emotional whiplash, just clarity. And from that clarity, your standards get quieter but stronger. You don't announce them, you don't defend them, you just live by them. And anyone who can't meet you there falls away naturally. Loneliness isn't punishment here. It's space to rebuild your sense of worth without someone else validating it, space to remember who you are when you're not chasing or fixing or proving. And soon, that loneliness turns into confidence. Not loud confidence, stable confidence. The kind that doesn't rush, the kind that doesn't beg, the kind that knows red flags aren't obstacles, they're directions. At some point, you realize something uncomfortable. You don't actually miss them. You miss the version of yourself that kept trying to be enough. You miss the effort you gave, the hope you held on to, the belief that if you just loved harder, things would finally change because chasing gave you purpose. It made your pain feel meaningful. It made waiting feel justified. It made disappointment feel like part of the process. Now that you've stopped, there's nothing left to fix. And that's when the grief shows up. You grieve the time you spent trying to earn what should have been given freely. You grieve the energy you poured into people who never poured back. You grieve the patience you mistook for love, not because you were foolish, but because you cared. And it hurts to admit that caring didn't save anything. You start seeing clearly how often you ignored your own voice, how many times your body told you to leave while your heart begged you to stay. You stayed loyal to people who weren't loyal to your peace, and that realization is heavy, because now you can't go back, you can't unsee the patterns, you can't pretend disrespect was accidental, you can't convince yourself that red flags were just misunderstandings. You've outgrown the version of you that survived on hope alone, and while that growth is necessary, it still feels like loss. But here's the truth. You didn't lose something real. You let go of something that only existed because you kept tolerating it. And the more distance you get, the clearer it becomes. What you were missing wasn't love, it was self-respect. Ignoring red flags was never about love. It was about not wanting to choose yourself. Because choosing yourself meant walking away without guarantees, without reassurance, without someone else filling the silence, so you stayed. You told yourself love takes patience, that people need time, that your pain was just part of the process, but deep down, you knew the truth. You weren't staying because it felt right. You were staying because leaving felt terrifying, terrifying to be alone, terrifying to admit you deserved better, terrifying to sit with the idea that you chose someone who couldn't choose you back, though you ignored the signs. Not because you didn't see them, but because seeing them meant action. And action meant accountability. But here's what finally clicks. Red flags don't hurt you. Ignoring them does. Every time you stayed, you taught yourself that your needs were optional. Every time you excused behavior, you taught yourself that love should be endured. Every time you waited for change, you delayed your own growth. And that cycle doesn't end when someone finally treats you right. It ends when you stop accepting what treats you wrong. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you stop wanting love. It means you stop betraying yourself just to keep it. It means you walk away sooner. You trust discomfort. You listen the first time something feels off. Not because you're cold, but because you're done confusing pain with connection. And once you reach this point, red flags don't feel complicated anymore. They feel clear. You don't argue with them. You don't negotiate with them. You don't try to turn them green. You leave. Because now you understand something you didn't before. Being alone is temporary, self-betrayal is cumulative, and you're no longer willing to pay that price. That's not bitterness, that's self-respect, and that's where the cycle finally ends. You ever notice how rare it is to find people who just let you be yourself? Like no judgment, no weird looks, no pretending you're too much or not enough, and they don't flinch. They don't make you feel like you need to tone it down or act a certain way just to be accepted. They just get you, and even if they don't, they still let you exist without making you feel wrong for it. And honestly, that kind of comfort is everything. Because most of us grew up feeling like we had to adjust ourselves depending on who we were around. Act smaller here, act tougher there, be the chill one, the funny one, the stable one, whatever made people like us, whatever kept the peace. But it's exhausting pretending. It's exhausting constantly checking yourself just to make sure you're acceptable. That's why people who make you feel safe without you having to explain yourself, that's rare. That's the kind of rare you don't stumble on often. People who see the parts of you usually hide, the awkwardness, the overthinking, the random jokes, the quiet days, the loud days, and they just accept it like it's the most normal thing ever. People who make you feel like you can finally breathe, people who don't treat you like you're too much or hard to love, people who let you be real instead of perfect, and when you find someone like that, someone who feels like home instead of a performance, that's one of the best feelings in the world, because deep down, all any of us ever want is to be seen, accepted, and loved exactly as we are. I don't think people understand how draining it is to constantly replay every tiny conversation in your head, not for minutes, but for hours, sometimes for days. Like, I'll send the most harmless message, something simple like, okay, and before the text even delivers, my brain is already spiraling. And was that too dry? Should I have used a different word? Do they think I'm annoyed? Did I come off cold? Are they over there wondering what they did wrong? Do they secretly hate me now? And I'll sit there staring at my phone, fighting every urge to send another message to explain myself, but knowing that if I do, I'll just look even more anxious, even more confusing, even more like the version of myself I'm always trying to hide. So instead, I just sit with it. I let the anxiety chew on me for the rest of the day. Let the moment repeat in my mind 100 times, replaying a 2-second interaction like it was some life-changing event. And the worst part, it's never actually about the text. It never was. It becomes proof. Proof that I talk weird. Proof that I'm awkward. Proof that people must get tired of me. Proof that I'm somehow too much and not enough at the same time. Because deep down I'm scared. Scared of being misunderstood. Scared of messing up something good. Scared that one wrong word is all it takes for someone to see the real me and walk away. And it sucks because most people don't think twice about messages. They text, they move on. They don't overanalyze punctuation or tone or emoji choice, or whether their okay sounded passive aggressive. But me, I feel everything on full volume. I care deeply, maybe too deeply. And that sensitivity, it makes life heavier sometimes, but it also means my heart is real. It means I think before I speak. It means I don't want to hurt anyone. It means I actually care about how people feel. Maybe that's not something to hate about myself. Maybe it's okay to be someone who feels a little too much, even if it makes the world overwhelming sometimes. Because even if my brain tries to convince me otherwise, I'm not broken. I'm not weird. I'm not a burden. I'm just human. Human with a heart that works overtime, and that's not a flaw. It's proof I'm alive. I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but you have to let them go. Not because you didn't care enough, not because what you felt wasn't real, but because holding on to something that's already gone is only hurting you more. They're not coming back, and I know that's a hard pill to swallow. It's one of those truths that sits heavy in your chest because part of you is still hoping, still replaying memories, still thinking maybe one day things will go back to how they were. But the truth is, if they wanted to come back, they would have. You wouldn't be sitting here questioning everything. You wouldn't be overanalyzing every small sign. You wouldn't be waiting for a text that never comes. Someone who wants to be in your life makes that clear. They don't leave you guessing, they don't disappear, and expect you to keep the door open forever. Letting go doesn't mean what you had didn't matter. It doesn't erase the memories, the connection, or the time you shared. It just means you're choosing to stop living in the past. You're choosing to stop punishing yourself by holding on to something that no longer exists. And that choice takes strength, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. I know part of you is scared. Scared that letting go means starting over. Scared that you won't feel that way about anyone else again. Scared that this was your one chance at something special. But that fear is lying to you. Life doesn't give you just one opportunity for love, connection, or happiness. It gives you many, but only if you make space for them. The sooner you let go, the sooner you heal. The sooner you stop checking their page, rereading old messages, and asking yourself what you did wrong, the sooner you start moving forward. And moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting. It means allowing yourself to grow past this version of your life. Good things are going to come again. Not the exact same things, not the same person, not the same situation, but something new, something healthier, something that won't leave you feeling confused, unchosen, or stuck. I promise you that. So let this be your reminder. You don't need to keep holding on to prove how much you cared. You've done enough. It's okay to release what no longer serves you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is finally say goodbye, even when part of you still wishes they'd stay. I knew it wasn't going to last, not because they said it, not because there were red flags everywhere, but because something in me never fully relaxed. Even in the good moments, there was a quiet voice saying, "Don't get too attached." I enjoyed it. I smiled, I played my part, but deep down, I felt the expiration date, and that's the weirdest kind of heartbreak. When you see the ending while you're still in the middle, sometimes your intuition whispers long before reality confirms it. There weren't major fights, no dramatic betrayals, no obvious reason to leave, but there was inconsistency, little things, energy that shifted slightly, effort that felt uneven, words that didn't fully match actions, and instead of confronting it, I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself to relax, to just enjoy the moment, to stop looking for problems, but intuition doesn't shout. It nudges, it tightens your chest a little, it makes you hesitate before getting attached, it keeps you half guarded even when things seem fine, and I felt that, I just ignored it, because sometimes we don't want to be right, we want to be wrong about the ending, so why did I stay if I knew? Because sometimes temporary love still feels better than loneliness, because even if it wasn't forever, it was something. The late night conversations, the inside jokes, the way they looked at me when it was just us. I knew it had cracks, but I also knew it had moments, and I convinced myself that maybe moments were enough. Maybe I didn't need permanence. Maybe I didn't need certainty. Maybe I could just enjoy it without expecting it to stay. But that's the lie we tell ourselves. You can't emotionally invest and pretend you won't feel it when it ends. I stayed because I hoped my intuition would be wrong. I stayed because I liked them, because I wanted it to work, because walking away early felt dramatic, but sometimes staying longer just makes the goodbye heavier. There's a difference between anxiety and intuition. Anxiety is loud, it spirals, it imagines worst-case scenarios, it creates problems that don't exist yet. Intuition is quiet, it doesn't panic, it doesn't overreact, it just knows. And what I felt wasn't panic, it wasn't jealousy, it wasn't insecurity. It was a steady awareness that something wasn't aligned. I didn't feel chosen, I didn't feel secure, I didn't feel like we were building. I felt like we were passing time, and that's how you know. When the connection feels temporary, even while it's happening. Anxiety asks, what if they leave? Intuition says, they're not fully here. And deep down I knew which one it was. Knowing it won't last doesn't make it hurt less. That's the part nobody tells you. You'd think being mentally prepared would soften the blow. It doesn't, because even if your mind saw the ending, your heart still participated. You still laughed, still opened up, still imagined what if. And when it finally ends, there's no satisfaction in being right. There's no relief in saying, I knew it. There's just grief. Grief for the version of it you hope might surprise you. Grief for the effort you still gave even while doubting. Grief for the potential that never turned into permanence. Knowing doesn't protect you, it just makes you feel like you watched crash in slow motion. And sometimes that's worse. Should I have walked away sooner? Maybe. But it's easy to say that now. When you're in it, you don't see it as wasting time. You see it as giving it a chance. You tell yourself, maybe it just needs more time. Maybe they're just figuring things out. Maybe I'm overthinking. Because walking away early feels extreme. It feels impatient. It feels like you're not fighting hard enough. But sometimes staying longer isn't loyalty. It's fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of being alone again. Fear that this might be the closest thing to love you'll get for a while. So you stay, not because it's right, but because it's comfortable enough. And when it finally ends, you don't just grieve them. You grieve the time you knew better, but here's the thing. You didn't stay because you're weak. You stayed because you hoped, and hope isn't something to be ashamed of. Next time I'll trust it, that quiet feeling, that subtle hesitation, that inner voice that doesn't panic, it just knows. Because ignoring it didn't protect me, it just delayed the inevitable. Next time, I won't wait for proof. I won't wait for the obvious red flag. I won't wait for the dramatic ending. I won't wait until I'm already attached. If something feels temporary, I'll ask why. If something feels uneven, I won't convince myself it's balanced. If someone feels half in, I won't invest fully. Not from a place of fear, from a place of alignment. Because intuition isn't there to ruin good things, it's there to protect you from forcing the wrong ones. And maybe I needed this ending to finally respect my own instincts. Not every connection is meant to last. Some are meant to wake you up to your patterns, to your boundaries, to the things you tolerate when you're lonely. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be forever. Maybe it was supposed to show you what half effort feels like so you'd stop accepting it. Maybe it was supposed to teach you that chemistry isn't compatibility, that attention isn't intention, that potential isn't commitment. Sometimes we meet people who aren't meant to stay. They're meant to reveal. Reveal where you overgive, where you ignore yourself, where you settle for almost, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So maybe it didn't last because it wasn't designed to build, it was designed to redirect. Endings don't always mean failure, sometimes they mean clarity. We think if something doesn't last forever, it wasn't real, but that's not true. It was real, the feelings were real, the moments were real, it just wasn't permanent. And permanence isn't the only measure of value. Some connections exist to shift you, to sharpen your awareness, to strengthen your boundaries, to remind you what you need and what you'll never accept again. It didn't fail, it finished, and there's a difference. Failure feels like you did something wrong. Finish feels like it served its purpose, and maybe that's what this was. Not a waste, not a mistake, just a chapter that reached its natural end. I used to think knowing it wouldn't last was a weakness, like I was pessimistic, like I was sabotaging it, like I couldn't just enjoy something good. But now I see it differently. That feeling was awareness. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't overthinking, I wasn't insecure. I was aligned enough with myself to recognize misalignment, and that's power, because next time I won't silence it, I won't stay longer than I should just to prove I can make something work. I won't ignore the quiet voice just because the moments feel nice. Knowing it wouldn't last didn't mean I didn't care, it meant I could see clearly, and clarity is growth, so no, it didn't last, but I did. I walked away more aware, more grounded, more in tune with myself, and next time, if it's meant to last, I won't have to convince myself of it. I'll feel that too. It's strange how people don't really care about how you're feeling until you start acting different. You can be struggling quietly for weeks, even months, and nobody notices. You still show up, you still smile, you still say, "I'm good," even when you're not. You laugh at jokes you don't even hear. You hold conversations while your mind is somewhere else entirely. You keep being the strong one, the chill one, the reliable one everyone counts on. And that becomes your role. The person who's always fine, always understanding, always there. But the moment your energy shifts, the moment you take longer to reply, the moment you stop forcing yourself to show up the same way, now suddenly everyone notices. What's wrong? Why are you acting different? But let's be honest. They're not asking because they care. They're asking because you stopped being convenient, because you stopped playing the part they were comfortable with. What hurts the most is knowing you were hoping someone would notice before it got to that point, before you had to pull back, before you had to protect yourself, but they didn't, because most people don't listen to silence. They only react to distance. They don't see you drowning when you're still smiling. They only care once you stop swimming for them, and that's when you realize the truth. People don't miss you when you're struggling. They miss you when your absence disrupts their life. So don't feel guilty for pulling back. Don't apologize for choosing peace. You're not cold. You're not acting funny. You're just tired. Tired of being the one who checks in. Tired of being strong for everyone else. Tired of people only noticing your worth once you stop giving them access to it. Let go of the people who only want the best parts of you. No one really talks about how long some men are willing to wait for the one person they truly want. Not days, not weeks, months, sometimes years. And it usually starts with something small, something that doesn't sound final. She says, "Maybe one day. I'm just not ready right now. I need time." And he hears that like it's a promise, like it means not now doesn't mean never, so he holds on to those words, replays them, builds hope around them, and he waits. He doesn't make it obvious, he doesn't beg, he doesn't pressure, he waits quietly, patiently, convincing everyone, including himself, that he's fine, because when a man sees you in his future, when he's already chosen you in his heart, waiting feels easier than letting go. He tells himself she's healing, she's figuring things out, she'll come back when she's ready, and sometimes it's hard to tell if that kind of waiting is beautiful or self-destructive, because love like that is rare, A man who's willing to pause his own needs, put his feelings on hold, stay loyal to the idea of you without knowing if you'll ever choose him back. That's not weakness, that's commitment. But commitment without clarity can slowly break someone. So if you have a man like that, someone willing to wait while you sort through your life, you can't treat that lightly. Take the time you need, heal what you need to heal, do what you need to do, but don't let him wait if you already know you're not coming back. Because the cruelest thing is letting someone hold on to hope when all that's waiting for them is disappointment. A lot of men won't walk away. They'll keep telling themselves one more month, one more sign, one more chance, not because they're desperate, but because they care. So if you can love him again, do it fully. And if you can't, tell him, don't make him wait just to slowly lose himself loving someone who was never going to return. What people don't see is what waiting does to him. Not on the outside. He looks fine. He still shows up. Still laughs at the right moment, still pretends he hasn't built his days around the possibility of you coming back. But inside, everything is on pause. He doesn't let himself move on, doesn't let himself get close to anyone else, doesn't let himself fully hope or fully let go, because doing either would feel like betraying the future he pictured with you. So he lives in the middle, not chosen, not free, just waiting. He rereads old messages looking for reassurance that maybe he didn't imagine the connection. He remembers how you looked at him, how you laughed with him, how real it felt, and that's what keeps him there. Not obsession, not desperation, memory. He tells himself real love requires patience, that if it's meant to be, it'll come back around. But patience without direction starts turning into quiet pain, because every time you say, I don't know yet, he hears, not now, but maybe. Maybe is enough to keep him holding on. What breaks him isn't waiting itself. It's not knowing whether the waiting means something to you too. He would wait longer if he knew it mattered. He would walk away if he knew it didn't. But uncertainty keeps him stuck, and the longer he stays there, the more of himself he puts on hold. His needs, his timing, his chance to be loved fully, all for someone who may never come back. And that's the part no one talks about. Waiting doesn't just cost time. It costs pieces of him he doesn't realize he's giving away. At some point, the waiting starts asking questions back, not out loud, not in a way he can easily answer, just quiet thoughts that show up late at night when there's nothing left to distract him. Am I being patient or am I just afraid to let go? Because there's a difference. Patience comes with trust, with direction, with some kind of reassurance that the waiting has meaning. But what he has is uncertainty. He's not waiting because he's calm. He's waiting because walking away would mean admitting that the future he imagined might never happen. And that's harder than staying still, so he tells himself stories. That love is supposed to hurt a little, that timing matters more than readiness, that if he just proves he's loyal enough, consistent enough, understanding enough, it'll all make sense one day. But love isn't supposed to feel like erasing yourself. It isn't supposed to require putting your life on hold indefinitely. It isn't supposed to make you question whether your needs matter at all. Still, he stays. His hope is quiet, but it's persistent. It whispers things like, she'll come back. She just needs time. It'll be worth it. And as long as that voice exists, letting go feels like failure, like giving up on something real. What scares him most isn't the idea of her choosing someone else. It's the idea that she might never choose anyone, and he still waited anyway. That he might look back one day and realize he sacrificed his own chance to be loved fully for someone who was never coming back. And that realization doesn't make him angry. It makes him tired. Because waiting stopped feeling romantic a long time ago. Now it just feels heavy. And deep down, he's starting to understand something he's been avoiding. Love shouldn't feel like standing still while life passes you by. There comes a moment when waiting stops feeling like love and starts feeling like self-abandonment. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no dramatic breaking point. It's quieter than that. The realization that his life has been moving around someone who isn't moving toward him, that he's been planning a future with someone who won't even promise a present. He notices it in small ways, how he avoids making plans because what if she comes back? How he turns down opportunities because he doesn't want to feel unavailable when she finally decides. How he measures his growth, his happiness, his healing against whether or not it would still fit her. And that's when it hits him. Waiting has slowly become a way of disappearing, not because he doesn't love her, but because loving her has started costing him himself. He tells himself love requires sacrifice, but sacrifice isn't supposed to be one-sided. Real love doesn't ask you to pause your entire life without offering anything solid in return. And for the first time, he lets himself ask a dangerous question. If she never comes back, would this still have been worth it? That question hurts because the answer isn't immediate, because a part of him still wants to believe that patience will be rewarded, but another part, the quieter, tired part, knows something has to change. He starts realizing that choosing himself doesn't mean he loved her less. It means he finally loved himself enough to stop waiting in uncertainty. Letting go doesn't erase what they had. It doesn't make the feelings fake. It doesn't turn the waiting into a mistake. It just means he's done confusing hope with a promise, because love shouldn't require you to disappear quietly just to prove you're loyal. And walking away doesn't mean he stopped caring. Sometimes it means he cared enough to stop hurting himself in silence. Letting go hurts differently than waiting ever did. Waiting was familiar, painful but predictable. It gave him something to hold on to, even if that something was uncertainty. Letting go feels like free fall, because when he finally stops waiting, there's no future version of them to lean on anymore. No, maybe one day. No imagined moment where she finally says she's ready. Just silence, and that silence is loud at first. He feels it in the empty spaces where hope used to sit, in the routines he built around the idea of her coming back. For a while he doesn't know who he is without the waiting, because waiting gave his love direction. It gave his patience purpose. It made the pain feel meaningful. Now he has to sit with something harder, grief, not just for her, but for the version of himself who believed love always meant endurance. He realizes how long he ignored his own needs, how often he told himself later, instead of asking for what he deserved now. And that realization stings, because he wasn't weak, he was loyal. He just stayed loyal to someone who couldn't meet him where he stood. Healing doesn't come all at once. Some days he still wonders if he gave up too soon, if one more month would have changed everything. But then he remembers how heavy the waiting felt, how small his world had become, how much of himself he put on hold. And slowly something shifts. He starts choosing himself in quiet ways. He makes plans without hesitation. He opens himself to new moments without checking if they'd interfere with the future that no longer exists. And for the first time in a long time, his life starts moving forward again. Letting go didn't mean he stopped loving her. It meant he stopped abandoning himself. And that's when healing actually began. After the waiting ends, there's a strange emptiness that follows, not because he lost her, but because he lost the version of himself that believed love had to hurt to be real. For a long time, his worth was tied to patience, to loyalty, to how much he was willing to endure without being chosen back. And when that chapter closed, he didn't immediately feel strong. He felt unsure, because when you spend so long putting someone else first, you forget what it feels like to be a priority in your own life. He starts noticing it in small moments, how uncomfortable it feels to ask for what he needs, how he second guesses himself when someone shows interest too easily, because ease feels unfamiliar now. He was used to earning affection, proving commitment, waiting quietly without complaint, so when someone shows up without confusion or hesitation, it almost feels wrong. Like love should require more suffering than this. That's when he realizes how deeply the waiting shaped him. He didn't just pause his life, he learned to minimize himself. He learned that his needs could wait, that his feelings were negotiable, that love meant staying even when nothing was being offered in return. Unlearning that takes time. He has to remind himself that love isn't supposed to feel uncertain, that commitment doesn't mean self-erasure, that being chosen shouldn't feel like a reward for endurance. Slowly he starts rewriting the rules. He lets himself want clarity. He lets himself walk away when something feels one-sided. He stops confusing consistency with compatibility, and piece by piece his sense of worth comes back, not because someone else validates it, but because he no longer abandons himself to keep someone else comfortable. He waited because he meant it, but now he understands something important. The right person won't need him to suffer quietly to prove his love. They'll meet him where he stands. Waiting leaves marks, not obvious ones. Nothing you can point to and explain easily. But after someone has waited that long, they don't love the same way again. He becomes more careful, not closed off and just aware, because once you've given that much patience to the wrong person, you learn how expensive your loyalty really is. He no longer rushes into hope, no longer builds futures in his head without evidence in the present, not because he's bitter, but because he knows what it costs to believe too soon. He listens differently now. When someone says, "I'm not ready," he hears it clearly. When someone says, "I don't know what I want," he doesn't translate it into possibility. He takes words as they are, not as promises he can grow hope around. That doesn't make him cold, it makes him intentional. He still loves deeply, still commits fully, but only where clarity exists, because waiting taught him that love shouldn't feel like uncertainty stretched over time. He no longer tries to prove his worth through endurance. He doesn't stay where effort isn't mutual. He doesn't confuse potential with reality. And that makes him harder to lose, not because he withholds love, but because he now knows when to walk away. He understands that choosing someone means choosing himself too. That real connection doesn't ask him to pause his life indefinitely. Doesn't ask him to suffer quietly just to stay loyal. Waiting didn't break him, it refined him. It taught him what love isn't, though he could finally recognize what it is. And when he loves again, it won't be out of fear of losing. It will be out of certainty. The next time he loves someone, it won't start with waiting. It'll start with clarity, because once you've waited that long for someone who couldn't meet you halfway, you stop confusing effort with connection. He won't wonder where he stands anymore. He won't analyze pauses, he won't read into silence or turn uncertainty into hope, not because he's less romantic, but because he's learned what love is supposed to feel like. The next person he loves won't have to guess how he feels. They won't have to question his loyalty. They won't have to wonder if he's serious, because when he chooses fully, but this time he'll only stay where he's chosen back. He won't pause his life waiting for someone to decide. He won't put his heart on hold for potential. He understands now that real love doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't stretch uncertainty across months and years. It doesn't ask you to sacrifice peace just to stay connected. The next person will feel the difference. Not because he loves harder, but because he loves cleaner, with boundaries, with honesty, with the expectation of mutual effort. And that's the quiet shift no one sees. Waiting didn't make him bitter, it made him precise. It taught him that commitment means nothing without intention behind it. So when he gives his time again, his patience again, his heart again, it won't be because he's afraid to lose. It'll be because both of them are choosing each other in the present. Not someday, not maybe, now. The people who wait the longest are often the hardest to replace, not because they demand attention, not because they make noise, but because they loved with patience most people don't have anymore. When he was waiting, his presence felt easy to overlook. He was steady, consistent, always there, and consistency can become invisible to people who aren't ready to value it. So they assume he'll always be there, that his patience has no limit, that his loyalty is permanent. But what they don't realize is that waiting teaches restraint. It teaches someone exactly how much they're willing to give before they stop. So when he finally walks away, it's quiet, no drama, no announcement, no attempt to make anyone regret it. He just goes, and that's when the absence is felt. Because he wasn't loud, he was grounding. He was the one who remembered, the one who stayed calm, the one who made things feel safe without asking for anything in return. And when that's gone, it leaves a space it's hard to fill, not with excitement, not with attention, but with depth. That's when people realize they didn't lose someone dramatic, they lost someone rare, someone who would have waited longer than anyone else, but chose not to abandon himself anymore. And that's the part that hurts the most. Not that he left, but that he learned how to leave, because once someone like that is gone, they don't come back confused. They don't come back waiting. They move forward with intention, and by the time anyone realizes what they lost, he's already chosen himself. Waiting was never the problem was waiting without being chosen back. For a long time, he believed love was proven by how much you were willing to endure, how long you could stay, how patient you could be, how quietly you could hurt without asking for reassurance, and he did that. He waited through uncertainty, through mixed signals, through not right now that never turned into I'm ready, not because he didn't value himself, but because he valued love deeply, but eventually he learned the difference between commitment and self-sacrifice. Real love doesn't keep you suspended. It doesn't ask you to pause your life while someone decides if you're worth choosing. Real love meets you where you are, and the moment he understood that, waiting lost its meaning, because waiting only makes sense when both people are moving toward each other, even slowly, not when one person is standing still hoping to be picked someday. Walking away wasn't easy. It didn't feel empowering at first. It felt like grief. Grief for the future, he imagined. Grief for the version of himself who believed patience would be rewarded no matter the cost. But over time, that grief turned into clarity. He realized something simple but life-changing. Love should feel mutual, certain, chosen in the present, not promised someday. So now, when he looks back on the waiting, he doesn't see weakness. He sees proof that he can love deeply. But he also sees the moment he learned to stop giving that depth to people who couldn't return it. He waited because he meant it, but he walked away because he finally understood that the right person won't need him to wait at all. They'll choose him clearly, willingly, and without hesitation, and that's not something you ever have to earn by putting your life on hold. She said I wasn't man enough, and I won't lie. That one stuck, not because I believe it, but because when someone you love questions your masculinity, it hits somewhere deeper than regular criticism. It's not just about behavior, it's identity. It's everything you thought you were doing right suddenly being reframed as weakness. What does man enough even mean? Because I showed up, I communicated, I stayed loyal, I tried to fix things instead of run from them. But apparently that wasn't enough. Apparently being calm instead of aggressive was a problem. Apparently wanting to talk things through instead of shutting down made me soft. Apparently expressing emotion made me less of a man. And that's when I realized something dangerous. Some people confuse masculinity with dominance. They confuse emotional control with emotional absence. They confuse stability with weakness. And if that's the definition she was using, then maybe I was never supposed to fit it. But still, when she said it, it made me question myself. Because no matter how confident you are, words like that linger. They make you replay moments. They make you wonder if you should have been tougher, colder, less available, less understanding. And that's how toxic standards start reshaping you. Quietly, I started analyzing everything after that. Was I too patient, too willing to compromise, too quick to apologize? Because I thought being a man meant being responsible, being accountable, being emotionally mature. But maybe she wanted something louder, more dominant, more unpredictable, and that's confusing because society tells men two opposite things. Be strong, but don't be cold. Be vulnerable, but don't be weak. Lead, but don't control. And somehow you're supposed to balance all of it perfectly. So when she said I wasn't man enough, I started wondering, was I too emotionally available? Was I too steady? Was I not exciting enough? But here's the truth that took me time to accept. Being consistent doesn't make you less of a man. Being calm doesn't make you less masculine. Being emotionally intelligent doesn't make you weak, it makes you evolved, and not everyone is comfortable with evolved. Some people are used to chaos, used to intensity, used to men who are hard to access emotionally. So when they meet someone who communicates clearly and stands firm without yelling, it feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar can feel unmanly to someone who's been conditioned differently, but that's not my problem to fix. The deeper issue wasn't her words. It was what they tried to take from me, my confidence, because when someone attacks your masculinity, they're attacking your foundation. They're saying you're not enough as you are, and that's heavy. But here's what I had to learn. Being man enough means being emotionally unavailable. If it means suppressing how I feel, if it means pretending I don't care, if it means dominating instead of communicating, then I don't want that version of masculinity, because strength isn't loud. It's controlled, it's stable, it's secure enough to not overreact. It's confident enough to not prove itself constantly. And maybe she mistook calm for weak. Maybe she mistook kindness for softness. Maybe she mistook emotional awareness for insecurity. But that doesn't redefine me, it just shows what she was used to. What hurt the most wasn't that she left, it was that she framed it like I lacked something, like I needed to become more, like I needed to step up into some undefined standard. But love isn't about becoming someone else to fit someone's idea of masculinity. It's about alignment. If she needed someone louder, more dominant, more emotionally distant, that's preference, not proof that I wasn't enough. Wasn't. Because being man enough shouldn't mean performing toughness. It should mean integrity, leadership, emotional control, responsibility. And I had all of that, just not in a way that matched her expectations, and that's okay. I realized something important after sitting with it. The right woman won't question your masculinity. She'll feel safe in it. She won't need you to be aggressive to feel protected. She won't need you to be emotionally shut down to feel secure. She won't test your dominance to measure your worth. She'll recognize strength and stability. She'll see leadership and accountability. She'll see masculinity in consistency, because real masculinity isn't about intimidation. It's about presence. It's about knowing who you are without needing to prove it constantly. And here's the part nobody talks about. Sometimes when someone says you're not man enough, what they really mean is you're not toxic enough for what I'm used to. Because chaos feels passionate to some people, silence feels strong to some people, emotional distance feels masculine to some people. But healthy masculinity feels boring if you're addicted to instability, and that's not an insult, it's reality. Some people equate unpredictability with strength, and when they meet steadiness, they don't know what to do with it. I had to ask myself something hard. Was I actually lacking, or was I just not performing? Because there's a difference. Lacking means I don't possess something. Performing means I'm pretending to, and I refuse to perform masculinity for approval. I refuse to become colder just to seem stronger. I refuse to suppress my emotional intelligence just to look dominant, because the right person won't require that. They'll appreciate it. If anything, being called not man enough forced me to define what that means for myself. To me, being a man means standing on your word, protecting without controlling, communicating without yelling, being emotionally disciplined, owning your mistakes, leading with stability, and I did all of that. So if that wasn't enough for her, it doesn't mean I failed. It means we defined strength differently. I won't let one person's perception reshape my identity, because masculinity isn't loud. It isn't about dominance. It isn't about intimidation. It's about internal control. It's about consistency. It's about knowing who you are when no one is watching. And if someone mistakes calm strength for weakness, that says more about what they're used to than what I am. She said I wasn't man enough, but I am man enough to walk away instead of yelling, stay calm instead of escalating, express how I feel instead of suppressing it, choose growth instead of ego. And that's the kind of man I'll stay, because the right woman won't need me to prove my masculinity. She'll feel secure in it, and I'd rather be steady and misunderstood than loud and respected for something I'm not. If being man enough means losing emotional depth, then I'll pass. Because real strength doesn't shout, it stands.